Alrighty, yeah, hello one and all, and welcome to the final stream of Trails into Reverie. Oh, it's been a long time coming. It really has been, but today we have to end it by reading the final 2 blue spheres in the game, and then we can move on to bigger and greater things. Hello, Eric, how's it going? Hope you're doing well today, dude. Alrighty, let's open the game up here. Skadoosh! Resume from last save. Oh, I would love that. Let's get me in. Bigger and greater things like Daybreak. Yeah, in the summer. Before that, though, was Persona 5, which, oh boy, that's gonna take me a while. Hey, Esta, how's it going? Well, what does Coda mean in your title? Coda is it's like a finale section in music. So like usually it'll be like a coda happens. It's a whole thing of like this thing called DSL coda, where like you're playing a piece of music.
Let's go.
You hit the DS mark, and it goes back to like where the marking is, either the start of the song or like wherever something is marked in the music. Then when you get back to that marking again, you go to the final section of the song, which is called the coda, which is basically like the finale, the hurrah, the end, and whatnot. And so the guide refers to this section as the coda, I think, but also like this is what it would be, is like post game is kind of like your quote unquote coda. It's a musical term. Oh boy. Hey Blubba, how's it going? So TLDR music nerd for finale. Exactly. Hi Esto, how's it going? Welcome, welcome. Yeah, hello. So we have
Map of reminiscence activated.
2 more to do. We have look back to look forward, and beyond the reverie. This last one's gonna take a while. I've basically been told that this one will basically take an entire stream's time, which is why we're starting earlier. So that if we do end up going for longer, that's fine. But also, like, if these two really just take that long, then I can get it done in a reasonable amount of time or something like that. Also, my audio, what the heck is going on? Why are you so loud today? I know it doesn't seem loud to you guys, but why are you like this? Am I just loud today? No. Everything keeps going in the red. Why does it keep going in the red? I will say Beyond the Reverie is mostly a slideshow rather than proper cutscenes like other orbs. Ah, is that so? You doing pretty well, ready to relax and chill? Let's go. Ah, honestly. Now you're good? You good? You happy, OBS? Yeah, you are. All right. Everything was going in the red for some reason. It's not supposed to. All right, look back to look forward. Let's do this. It's every day with this, I swear to God. This microphone.
The third stage of the Orpheus final plan, the eternal recurrence plan. Far from demise, yet farther still from creation. One has but to face the spiral of all, false as it is true, by which the world revolves, to find a facade sincere as it is hollow. If one is to move forward, one must look back. Yet the choice must be done so with peril. For the answers, one may not stand to bear.
There's something odd about hearing the Grandmaster say that. Of all things. Oh, hello, McBurn.
Come on out. I know you're there.
To think it's been 10 years since you were here last. Not since I bestowed upon you and Lenhart your swords. I would applaud finding your way here without Campanella's guidance. But it may have been a simple task, now that half of your memories have returned.
Sure was. Hell, I think I even got enough to figure out who you really are now. Of course, if I knew for sure, I'd probably have to kiss this form goodbye. It figures. No use pretending what happens in this world's got nothing to do with me anymore, I guess.
I'm afraid not. We will need you to fulfill your role as number one for a while yet. It is not number 0 nor any Anguis, but you, and only you, who can act as our guiding bonfire.
Oh.
Works for me. I've gotten kind of attached to this place, so I don't mind sticking around. So, you got your eye on a new 7th Anguis to replace Steel?
You will meet when the time is right. Though only they may ultimately decide if they are willing to carry such a heavy burden.
Really now?
If I could have a moment.
Novartis, hello.
Well, well, if it isn't the guy who didn't think to ask before screwing around with someone's body.
Hey, Exo. How's it
would
going?
Never. How did he find out? You must forgive me for speaking up like this, Grandmaster. If I may, it concerns a most urgent report. And a question I have for you, McBurn.
Oh yeah?
I'll catch up to chat.
Simulation I had been
Soon.
reviewing of Elysium's deletion was
I don't want to talk over the
forcibly
cutscene.
terminated. I can only assume it was the work of an unknown party with 0 relation to the Society, Foundation, or Church. You wouldn't happen to have an idea of who they would be, would you?
Why would I? Wait. Maybe I do. It could be that new group the Oathbreaker was talking about.
The one operating out of Orid?
Pardon me for dropping in like this.
Oathbreaker, that's a new
What?
term. Yo!
Huh. Don't think you were on the guest list.
What is Calvert's new president doing here? How? Did they get you in here? I saw that logo.
I have no direct connection with them, to be clear. I just had a source put me in touch with them through the CID. Their services didn't come cheap, but there's no easier way to get what you want than throwing a little mirror around. Now, is there?
Funny guy.
It's a great pleasure to meet you, Grand Master. And if you don't mind me saying so, I almost get the feeling you were expecting my arrival.
I was. I have reason to believe you will be the greatest obstacle to our next endeavor. Nevertheless, welcome, and congratulations on your recent inauguration.
Why, thank you. Now, I'll make this brief. I come here with a proposal. For the next 2.5 years, I will not interfere in your next undertaking so long as you do not interfere in mine. Do we have a deal?
Okay.
You!
Oh, wow.
I see. For all your many differences, few share your and the late Chancellor's gift for imposing negotiations. Very well, Mr. President. We shall not interfere in your scheme to test this world's potential for 2.5 years.
So...
In return, you will do the same for our eternal recurrence plan.
Excellent. I'm pleased we could come to a swift agreement.
So all of
All
Kuro.
other matters can be dealt with as they come, so long as you do not fall afoul of the Calvardian Constitution.
Most of Kuro. To be continued. Ain't no shot that was how long it was. I thought it was gonna be like 35, 40 minutes. I start early. The Calvard Republic awaits. Ain't no shot that's how long it was. Okay, hold on. Let me catch up on chat real quick. That one's the shortest. What? I started early thinking it was gonna take like an hour for that one. Oh man. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. The Grandmaster is also Mirai's voice actor. Oh, that's interesting. Actually, did not know that. Esto. Let's see. Going all right. How about you? I'm doing well. I'm very tired because I stayed up way too late trying to finish today's Advent of Code challenge. Then I realized it was 3:30, and so I slept in a lot. I did it the previous night as well, so I need to not do that. But it was very worth it. I did not finish the challenge for today, which is annoying, but I'll finish it later. I got halfway through with it. Also, it is good to have you back, Exel. We have dearly missed you. You need to make sure that you catch up with everyone who has also dearly missed you because they're worried about you. But I'm glad to see you alive and well, my friend. Marduk this early? Yes. We first heard of Oathbreaker and CS3. Was that... Did we? Was that during like a weird like quest with Hercules or something like that? Because it sounds familiar, but also it's been like a hot minute since I've heard the Oathbreaker term. Not all of Kuro. This pact ends at the end of Kuro 2, just for timeline's sake. So, like, up until we found out Kuro 3 was gonna happen, I guess it was all of Kuro. Interesting. So, Daybreak 1 and Daybreak 2 are gonna be like Calvard doing Calvard stuff, and then Kuro 3 is gonna be like, aha! We're gonna get some stuff going. The Eternal Recurrence plan, though, definitely sounds interesting. And I'm curious to see where that goes. And also, I'm wondering who they pick for their 7th Anguis. Also, I know Falcom can say whatever they want to say. We're already, like, this far into Nayuda. You can't tell me that isn't Kreha. Like, bro. Kreha went off the deep end. She went off the deep end. She couldn't stay with poor Nayuda, so it's like, whatever, man. Alrighty, what was the shortest? Oh no, not the Constitution, exactly. Nah, but I think it'll be funner if you don't remember. Alright, fine, fair enough. Really? I didn't think anyone would notice. Bro, are you serious? Of course we noticed!
Staff reminiscence activated.
We absolutely noticed! What are you talking about? Alright. Finally, the Calvard Bridge. Yes, beyond the Reverie time. Here we go. This one's gonna take a while. Well, hey, if we finish relatively on time, then I guess we could end on time, but... These are but minute fragments of memories drifting in an endless ocean. Memories of what will be in the near future. Could they be shadows of the tangled threads woven by Elysium? Or perhaps veiled illusions that slip through the cracks of time and space? There are none who know the answer. By the way, do I need to turn the game audio up? No, I don't think so, because voices are pretty loud, aren't they? No, I think we're good. Another Hot Springs Paradise, an unconventional student, and return to the garden. All right, we'll do this one. But I think audio seems pretty good. Good to know people notice my absence. It kind of makes me feel a little happy. Yeah, dude. People care about you, and we'll miss you if you disappear without saying anything. So don't do it again. At least tell people. Like, if you gotta go, and it goes for anybody, right? Like, if you gotta go take care of stuff IRL, and like, you know, you're gonna be gone for a while, and like, you know, you don't want to like go into too much detail, that's fine. I completely understand that. But like, just let your friends know, let your family know, you know, we care. First one's Reen, second one's Ren, third one is Elaine. Heck yeah. A year after Reverie night. Quite easy, well, that's fine. January, year 1208 of the Septian calendar. Between two great mountains at the tip of a Calvardian basin sits Longlai. The town is known for two things, being the eastern entrance to the Republic and its exceptional hot springs. Through these enticing factors, does it continue to welcome tourists hailing from both home and abroad. I was told 3 days before I had to go, and I didn't know Wi-Fi was hard to come by. That's okay, fine, fair enough. I'll forgive you this time. Yet today it served guests, quite unlike its many unseasoned visitors. These had come from another renowned hot springs paradise situated in the northern reaches of Erebonia. Aw, it's so cute. Oh yeah, get ready to read. I know Rio mentioned that I should have guests for this one, or I should like piece this one out and together and stuff like that. But I'm like, you know what? No, I'm a big boy. I can do this. I can do this. Also, I forget if I said it, but if I didn't, Rio, welcome on in. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're also feeling. I'm certain you probably are, but I hope you're feeling better from your sickness from last week. And I'm glad to see you around. The depth of flavor in the food here is just exquisite. Agreed. The Phoenix Wings food is certainly nothing to sneeze at, but I have my doubts that the chef could replicate dishes this unique in taste. The Bishan Inn's reputation continues to precede itself. This freaking cough won't go away though. Aw, dude. I have hope. Baron Teo and Lady Lucia Schwarzer were sampling the inn's culinary delights, spirits high and stomachs filling fast. Their daughter Elise sat next to them, her spirit a bit lower by comparison as her brows furrowed with concern. I'm sure its luxuries come with just an equally luxurious price tag, and there's 4 of us, so even 2 nights must have cost a small fortune. Upon realizing what she said, she shook her head. I didn't mean to damper the mood. I know we have the money, but all my budgeting as student council president has made a terrible habit of me seeing the numbers and everything. Honestly, yeah. When you get to that point when you start paying bills and you start budgeting for things, you start looking at the numbers and you're like, oh god. Oh boy. Her older brother Reen couldn't help but let out a chuckle. And then the budget buster and you will like how much we saved, because we're not here as paying customers. We were invited by the owners personally. They said they wanted to get to know us since we run similar establishments, so here we are. And we'll be inviting them to Ymir sooner than later, of course. Right, Dad? Oh, absolutely. Add this to the list of boons coming from our countries finally coming to terms with one another. The Republic is reveling in unheard levels of prosperity, and the relations between our people are more active and festive than ever. I, for one, welcome any opportunity to further foster friendship. Alliteration, my butt. The Baron took another healthy sip of his baijiu before continuing. Friendship over fighting, I say. Such a shame that the world tends to overcomplicate that simple concept. Seeing her husband's glass was almost empty, Lucia filled it to the brim while adding her own thoughts. That's all the more reason why we need to make the most of this invitation and enjoy ourselves to the fullest. Their children nodded in agreement. And even that aside, there's no reason to spoil a family vacation when we so rarely have the time to take them. Oh, I even read about some unusual sweet dishes worth trying here. Would you like to share some with me, Reen? In a bit. I'm thinking of taking another soak in the hot springs, so I might be in the mood for something sweet after. The food here's delicious, but as far as I'm concerned, the hot springs are the real star of the show. That's my boy right there. The ruling lord of the hot springs paradise would never let a good discussion about them pass him by. He was fond of their quality and soothing effects as Reen. Enthusiasm undeniably apparent from the warmth of his tone to the width of his smile. This is very difficult to read because I can't tell what is and isn't text box of who's saying it. Their medicinal springs happen to be a favorite of mine. I can't help but be fascinated by them time and time again. I can believe it. I've always known about them, but here's the first place I've been able to feel the way they warm you right to your core. Think we can make one available at the Phoenix Wings? It'd be worth a try, but that comes with its own obstacles. For as many problems as Teo expressed in practical terms, Reen held just as many proposed solutions. The conversation grew more involved by the minute, leaving the ladies of the house to pleasantly bask in their glow and continue enjoying the meal before them. All 4 felt the same, that it had been too long since they could enjoy each other's company. But the wait had been well worth it. That night, after indulging in his post-dinner soak in the springs and telling his family he was going for a walk, Reen departed the inn. All right, let's do this. He took in a deep breath, the crisp night air of Longlai filling his lungs. The hot springs were an excellent bonus to his trip, to be sure, but it was not the real reason he agreed to visit. He had come in search of Yun Kafai, the famed sword hermit. Master Kafai was the founder of the Eight Leaves One Blade School, of which Reen was a practitioner, and though now over 70 years old, he was still regarded as one of the strongest combatants on the continent. They had not met since before Reen's enrollment at Thor's. Many a letter was exchanged during the 4 years that followed, but even they had stopped after Reen earned the right to call himself a Divine Blade over a year ago. There was so very much he wished to discuss with his master. What had he learned in his 4 years of training? What had transpired since becoming a Divine Blade? The true meaning behind the final blade to master the Eight Leaves. There's plenty I'd like to ask that have nothing to do with swordsmanship too. All these questions, all impossible to answer without first knowing the whereabouts of a single individual. Even a senior practitioner like Cassius Bright claimed ignorance, having received not a single update from their old master. He'd always been an elusive but traceable sort, but wherever he was now, he was next to impossible to track. That was until word of a blade master being sighted in Longlai reached Reen's ears. The man held a fondness for the town's specialties, those being the hot springs and the fragrant tea leaves, making the sighting worthy of particular note. He also knew from the letters before they stopped that he intended to journey eastward, making Longlai one of the more plausible stopping points. The word came to him just as the Schwarzers were invited to stay at the inn during their New Year vacation. Reen's instincts told him the timing was a little too fortunate, but with how vague the lead was, even it would most likely result in him leaving the same as he had arrived. While he had not discussed the rumor being key to his traveling here, his family seemed to sense it was more important than a simple pleasure trip for him. I know Dad would have a great time catching up with him, but I don't want to get his hopes up for nothing. These thoughts in mind, Reen made his way through the night streets. Oh, that is a pretty piece of art. Look at this. This art style is amazing. I kind of almost wish they used this, and like when they do like the arts and stuff like that, they have the sepia tone over it, right, to kind of show like recollection and stuff like that, which is fine because it works from like a visual standpoint, but I kind of almost wish they kept it black and white. There's so much here. Longlai's architecture was distinctly Eastern, making it a uniquely intriguing site of most of Calvard's towns and cities. This was not to say it was similar to Crossbell's East Street. With subtle colors paired with dignified beauty, every wall and stone exuded the traditional concept of wabi-sabi. One look was enough to understand the region was rich with history. This is probably the silliest reason this game made me cry. This art style reminds me of a Chinese comic books my grandma read to me. I was like, oh, that's so cute though. That is really sweet though. This quiet charm would give way to constantly lively evenings, where tourists both westward and farther eastward were greeted to stalls dedicated to the hot springs and more. This too held a traditional sort of charm. Reen asked several merchants if they had any information pertaining to the whereabouts of his master, somewhat sheepishly purchasing a number of souvenirs from their stalls to keep himself from being a nuisance. Oh, Reen. I would do that. That's so relatable. They, he justified, would make excellent gifts for his friends, his coworkers, and his students. Oh, I love this piece of art so much. Oh, this is just adorable. Not only is Reen looking so like mature and cool, but like you know, the new class 7 in the background too. Oh, this is just a wonderful piece of art. This is so cute. I can't believe it's almost time for them to graduate. I might be more emotional about theirs than I was for mine. For the first time, Reen would get to experience what it was like for the young birds he had taken under his wing for 2 years to finally leave the nest. Their first year had been eventful, to say the least. What had started as a problem class full of disagreements and mounting tension had slowly grown into one of compassion and understanding for one another. It was with each new discovery about themselves and every new ordeal the world sought to impose upon them that they grew not only as individuals, but as a team. He hoped this period would remain as much a meaningful part of their lives as it would always be for him. The months before the Retributive Tower's appearance held many a trial, making the 10 months that followed in its shadow pass all too quickly. In that time, Reen students continued to mature, building on everything they accomplished in their first year to prepare for and settle into their desired future. Indeed, whether it was by overcoming their demons or by learning to work with them in a healthier fashion, their paths up till now had been well worn, and, while they may have had to rest from time to time, he was proud to be a part of why their steps continued to face forward. Proud, but also lonely at the thought of saying goodbye. As their second year drew to a close, lacking in grandiose events but still rewarding in its own right, it was this mixture of emotions that bore conflict within him most. I can't believe I'll be going through it all over again next year, and even the year after that. Hell of a career I chose to pursue, huh? He didn't know when he stopped walking. Realizing this, he resumed his search, paying respect and mind to the many generations of educators who came before him. No matter where he looked, he could not find Master Kafai and Longlai. It was, however, still too early to say whether the trip had been in vain, as he had at least caught an unverified report of the Blade Master being seen in the mountains to the south. Wandering such terrain at night wasn't going to be ideal, but Reem was already firm on spending the next day with his family. Tonight, it would have to be. Making a brief stop to the inn to tuck his souvenirs somewhere secure, he then departed for his new destination. Ah, yes. He looks so cool, though. I don't know. The Cold Steel 4 outfit I've kind of grown to not like as much over time. The Cold Steel 3 outfit I've grown upon, but I just feel like it's so extra. Even though Cold Steel 2's outfit was a bit extra, but like so dashing on him. Reen really does look best in simplicity. Like, yeah, be a teacher, sure, but if you wore that, yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you, bro. The mountains' winding, half-beaten trails would be more treacherous at night, but they were not off-limits as such. The key, Reen knew, would be to not rely on sight alone. His senses of hearing and smell, perhaps even touch, were going to be equally vital in the hours ahead. Falling upon his experience and intellect to heighten all 5 senses, he took in his surroundings in full. This really takes me back to training in the mountains. To call the experience training would imply his time being one of simple tutelage between student and master, but it was equated to be so much more. The danger then was far worse than it was now, with some days requiring him to set foot in highly dangerous territories just to find the day's food to survive. It sounds like the Kunlun Mountains may have been used for a similar exercise a long time ago. Reen was starting to think on the information gained during his search as he continued along the trail. Searching for evidence of human activity in an environment like this was not a difficult task. Humans always leave something indicative of their presence behind that no wild creature could, be it a long dead fire, footprints, or traces of going on the hunt. One need only follow the light to lead to their source. Reen did so, advancing with the caution instilled in him by both his old master and hunting enthusiast of a father. They soon led him precisely to clear evidence that a human had been in the area, though the evidence itself was far from what he expected. Remains of a camp? No, this is... It didn't look like it had been left by martial artists in training or roaming hunters, but the most peculiar thing was that there were multiple sites like the first, all evenly spaced from one to the next. It was as though something was being measured. Maybe this is from a group of scholars doing field research? This seems too large in scale for that. There was nothing more to be found here. Reen advanced. Soon after, he found another unusual mound of evidence. It's like someone forced their way through here in a car, or more like hacked open a path wide enough for a car to pass through. All further inspection here suggested that whoever was responsible had given up on this endeavor, leading him to wonder if they somehow found success elsewhere. And if they did, why had they done this at all? The question pestered him. If there was anywhere to clear wide paths, the remote depths of the mountains certainly were not it. But instinct told him he was only a step away from discovering the answer. If I keep following this trail a little farther... At this thought, Reen sensed someone approaching. One person. Two people. Yes, there were two, and it was clear they were aware of his presence as well. Only for a fleeting second did he think they might be the ones responsible for the strange trails, but a deadly tension that now thickened the air told him these were no simple scholars. He felt them draw near, the night veiling themselves well, and then he felt them stop. How about you show yourselves? He spoke without placing his hand on his tachi, signifying to those watching that he had no desire to fight. Their silhouettes then silently emerged from the darkest shadows of the mountains. They looked very much like the shinobi of the east that he had heard about, their forms clad from top to bottom in black garments and their faces fully obscured. Whoa. I see your insight poses a threat after all, Divine Blade of the Empire. The contract with our client has yet to begin, but we will make an exception for one among their list of dangerous persons. The silhouettes then changed. They caught him completely off guard, drawing short, straight blades to attack him as they narrowed in. Reen's eyes widened in surprise. Nearly in that same moment, he was in a fighting stance, hand over his still sheathed tachi. Fifth form, Warning Moon! He perceived the direction of his foe's attacks to evade them, then mounted a counterattack of his own. All it took was that instant to repel their assault and leave them vulnerable. Ordinarily, this would have been the time to take the offensive, but all Reen could do was stare at the two with disbelief. The thought entered my mind as I saw you move, but now that we've crossed blades... He paused, the disbelief in his eyes giving way to a more intent gaze. Are you... practitioners of the Eight-Leaf School? Another pause, this time from the silhouettes before answering, as though they were well aware the question was coming. No, though we do possess ties to the school. We are of the Ikaruga, practitioners of the Black God One-Blade School. The what? Reen was left stunned. The two Ikaruga held their blades horizontally, ready to thrust them forward at any moment. It was as though they wanted to make clear that while they had been caught off guard once, he would not be so fortunate twice. Reen responded by assuming the middle stance with his tachi, but just as the sides were only a beat away from engaging in battle. What could only be described as a black cyclone roared from the darkness at such speed that it seemed certain to slice anything it touched. Was that Risha's blade? Its appearance caught Reen by surprise more than the initial attacks by the silhouettes. He had not suspected an attack from that angle, that distance, or even that moment. His enemies, on the other hand, did not so much as flinch at the sight. The approaching blade, over an arge and a half in length, was heading directly for Reen's back. He couldn't possibly dodge it now. Perhaps he should have noticed. Perhaps it was impossible to notice. Whatever the answer, the Divine Blade of the Empire would soon fall. The silhouettes waited in for his final moments to be convinced of no other fate in his future. When Reen spun his body in a full circle, applying the intensity built into his tachi from the motion to swing. The blow made was weighted, yet precise, shifting the incoming blade to a new direction, without mitigating its near overpowering force. This technique was an application of the greatest form, Helix. There was no greater course in the movement than to use it to redirect the attack without it ever making direct contact. The spinning blade was now significantly off its intended course, but Reen slashed at it again, birthing a shockwave that further shifted its path. The blade went flying hairs to the right of the direction it had come from. A hand was there to deftly catch it in midair. Oh no. You are really cool though. You may have only recently taken the title, but you are worthy of being called the Divine Blade all the same. You used the unclouded eye well. From this hand emerged a new figure from the darkness. While he was clad in similar garments to the silhouettes, something about his presence was much more inspired by comparison. His musculature was thoroughly discernible beneath his body-covering fortified suit. His every movement, however slight, reflected a complete lack of hesitation, and the faint light of his eyes, visible through his mask, projected no emotion whatsoever. The man possessed the aura of a true warrior, one projected only by those who fought more battles than was possible to count. Fall back. He's too formidable a foe for you to handle. The silhouette slid into the darkness in an instant. Only the new arrival was left to face Reen. I need to know, who are you, and why did you attack me? Our contract forbids the disclosure of such information. You will leave this place now, fledgling Divine Blade. The tone was not of advice nor of one of an order. It was as if the man was stating a fact, his calmness veiling an undertone of malice that told Reen what would happen if he did not do as was told. I'm afraid I can't do that without an explanation, not when I haven't found what I'm looking for yet. I understand. Then, there was no longer anything to discuss. All they could do was battle. I, Kurogane of the Rogetsu School, shall be your opponent. Kurogane stood at attention, the large blade he had thrown before now pointed. I'd rather have settled this with words, but I can see that's not an option. Reen sighed, taking his own stance in turn. Then, Reen Schwarzer, master of the 8 Leaves One Blade School's 7th form, shall be yours. The Divine Blade moved instantly. The bizarre weapon Kurogane wielded was less akin to a sword and more 4 equally sized blades arranged in the shape of a cross, their bases connecting to a single point. That he could direct this large weighted shuriken as though it were a simple child's toy spoke volumes about how strong he was. Still, even it was not infallible, for it was not one to be ideally used in close-range combat. Kurogane appeared to have no other key weapons on hand either, meaning that if Reen could force him to fight where he would be at his most disadvantageous, he would likely come out of this the victor. His fighting trial is translated as Hazy Moon. I don't know why Nisa chose not to translate it. I wish they did, because that would be a cool reference to Hazy Moon, the song title from Tokyo Xanadu, which is one of the best dungeon themes in that game, if not just in general top 5 dungeon themes in Falcom history. I guess they wanted to keep it like mysterious and like Eastern-y or something. I don't know. Yeah, y'all's guesses can be as good as mine on that one. What Nisa do, Nisa don't. It's like how technically Risha's stuff is never translated. They like kept it very Eastern-y or something like that. Eastern style equals no translation. I don't know. They probably want to keep in line with the other Eastern fighting styles that exist or remain technically untranslated. Yeah, it's like, that's the only thing I could think of. Like Taito for Zen. Yeah. The question though is, like, when we get to Daybreak though, right? Like, are you going to translate it when we get there? Maybe? Probably not. Who knows? This was what he had in mind when choosing to act first. Second form, Gale! Maybe it'll translate in universe? Yeah, maybe. He closed the gap between them, drew his blade, and made a wide swing towards his opponent in the blink of an eye. Kurogane blocked the blow with ease. Xia translators usually keep them untranslated as well, so I wasn't surprised by these not being translated. Really? That, however, meant nothing in the larger scheme of things. Reen knew well this man's capabilities. So long as the gap between them was closed, and it was, he considered the attack a success. Man, I wish this was an actual fight. I wish this for the first time too. This whole section would have been cool as gameplay, or at least a cutscene now that you have mocap and stuff like that, but hey, whatever, I guess. But just as he thought he would be able to push onward and overpower his foe by mounting a newly fierce assault, Kurogane had split his cross-shaped shuriken in half. You know what would have been really cool, actually? you could have used this as like a tech demo of the new gameplay system. Since it's going to that hybrid system of action combat and turn-based combat, you could have used this as a way to test the action combat or something like that. Now that would have been cool. It would have been a scripted fight and you could have done whatever the outcome is here or something like that. But like with the robot minigame, like you could have maybe just made it more actiony or something. I don't know. I doubt they had this plan. Also true. Or you could have just reused the stuff you did in Tokyo Xanadu. Which is basically the hybrid. But just as he thought he would be able to push onward and overpower his foe by mounting a newly fierce assault, Kurogane had split his cross-shaped shuriken in half. The ease at which he did made it clear this was intended by design. Whoa! He can dual-wield double sabers? There was no hiding his shock. In the West, double sabers were seen as relics from the Dark Ages that were difficult to utilize. Crow was the only person Reen knew who was competent with one, and only one. The skill it would take to use two was almost too difficult to fathom. His surprise created an opening that Kurogane was not going to let pass unexploited. Possessing two twin-ended blades allowed the shinobi to perform considerably more strikes than Reen, giving him no chance to push back. Steel sparked as their weapons clashed. Kurogane was dominant for some time, but he could do nothing to bolster his advantage. With strike and spark after strike and spark, the advantage was moving back to Reen. This was in part due to him being used to fighting this weapon that defied rationale, but it was also because he had been given the time to find what he was looking for: the perfect range in which to attack. Double sabers were forged with a shorter reach than they appeared to have, something inevitable due to their handle being in the middle. It could have been because he also used them as a shuriken, but the length of Kurogane's sabers were even shorter than Crow's, meaning Reen would have to adjust with the longer length of his blade. He measured patiently, staying only just out of Kurogane's reach and evading the onslaught by a hair's breadth each time prior to countering. It was calculated quickly thanks to Kurogane's frequent, rapid attacks, meaning all Reen had to do now was wait for the right moment. This moment would come in the form of his opponent showing impatience for this stalled battle, driving him to take an unneeded step forward. Reen evaded the strike expertly, instantly returning it with an upward diagonal slash. The forceful swing of his tachi made contact with the handle of Kurogane's own swung weapon, knocking it clean out of his hand. Reen dashed forward to make use of this availed opportunity, but after only a flicker of bewilderment, Kurogane moved to deny him. He blocked Reen's attack with the double saber still in his possession, then hurled the hidden kunai with his free hand, jumping backward a significant distance while doing so. Very good, divine blade of the 8 leaves. You may pale to the skills of our princess, but you without a doubt deserve your reputation. Princess? Reen's intonation went unanswered as Kurogane took a notably different stance than before. But I shall demonstrate my respect for your skill with my finest technique. It's meant to be went. Typo. Nisa! Reen's intonation went unanswered. This put Reen staunchly on guard, senses heightened. He focused every nerve in his body, fixing his eyes on whatever was to come of Kurogane, who was now gone. Nothing remained where Reen's opponent had just stood. He hadn't taken his eyes off him, never eased himself for a moment, yet Kurogane was nowhere to be seen. How? Had he moved that quickly? Was it some kind of spatial translocation? But there was no signs to indicate either one. Was it that he never moved at all and was still there, sight unseen? No, that wasn't it either. The double saber Reen had repelled to the ground was also gone. I can still sense him, so he hasn't gone far. Reen suppressed the panic welling up within, honing his senses a second time. That was when another black cyclone swirled towards him from the shadows. He half expected something of this nature, so with little deviation he was able to deflect it as he did the first time. Yes, I typo. There haven't been that many typos in this game, thankfully, but there have been a few notable ones. Like the plus being an underscore. That was a cute one. The attack indicated that Kuragane had resembled his shuriken after recovering its lost half so he could throw it again. It also indicated, together with the slight changes in his surroundings, where he was now positioned. Rin needed a little more time to know where he was for certain, but ahead of making a solid conclusion, the cyclone came at him yet again from a new angle. That was fast! Though he blocked this attack as well as the last, before he could fully correct his posture, the next cyclone appeared. The gap between was getting shorter and shorter. There was another. This time, the time was shorter, and another, shorter. Soon, these assorted smaller cyclones seemingly growing into a blended grand storm of death, with Rin trapped at its center. This doesn't feel like I'm being attacked by a single person. Did he make phantom copies of himself? He had no idea from where the next cyclone would form, and by the time he located it, the next one was ready. Even the unclouded eye wasn't going to be enough for him to deduce Kuragane's location. He had been able to repel every blade that met with him so far, but that was growing increasingly difficult. I didn't want to use it, but I'm not so sure I have a choice. Well aware that doing so would place him in danger, Rin took his mind off the battle. He gave up blocking and evading attacks, dedicating the bare minimum of his focus to not sustaining lethal blows and focusing his mind inward. He focused on the power that he had long cultivated inside of him. The power he had feared, loathed, and rejected. The power he now relied on, desired, and nearly surrendered himself to. The power he faced with his loved ones at his side, making it a true part of himself. With his mind clear as day, he unleashed his full strength. Enlightened Spirit Unification! Unification! There we go. He imbued his Tachi with the great power surging out of him, crying out as he did so, and spinning his body forcibly around to create a bladed circle around him. The energy released by his Tachi repelled all forthcoming shuriken with ease, and with them, Kuragane's phantom copies lurking in the darkness faded to nothing. With that... There you are. Nope. There you are. He charged towards Kuragane. The man was thoroughly overwhelmed by Rin's sudden counterattack, throwing him completely off balance. There was nothing he could do to repel what would come next. It's time to settle this. Oh, it's time to settle this. There we go. Rin swung his Tachi downward while pouring all of his might into a final single strike, but just as the two felt the battle was coming to an end. Zeroth form. Duality. Accompanied with a voice as beautiful as a ball was a slash tearing through the sky. Oh, that was a... That's who... Okay, I know who this is, but I'm not gonna say who it is. Its color so black it threatened to eclipse the moon. It effortlessly stopped Rin's weapon from reaching its target. But that wasn't all. What? With a high-pitched metallic sound, Rin's beloved Tachi was sundered cleanly in two. Oh no! Princess! Kuragane was also taken aback by this new arrival. I heard what was happening from both our scouts, yet you could have invited me to join the fun instead of keeping it all to yourself. The words as she chided Kuragane indicated dissatisfaction, but the music of her tone betrayed her excitement. Rin made to see who this mysterious figure was. I won't say who it is for those wanting to stay, hidden on it, but I do know who this is. These pieces of art are great. They are so good! I'm sure this is on Wallpaper Engine by now, but if it's not, this piece of art needs to be on Wallpaper Engine. It is so pretty. And the sight of her alone took his breath away. She was young, wearing a fortified suit that looked to be a marriage of classical and modern Eastern styles, with long, silver hair that almost appeared to glow in the pale moonlight. Her age was likely close to Rin's, perhaps a little younger, with well-defined features that still held traces of adolescence, pairing strikingly in contrast to the empty void behind her eyes. There was the air of a young noblewoman who had been sheltered from impurities all her life, and the stench of a baleful warrior who had bathed in the blood of countless lies. How she was both and neither at once, Rin could not understand, but it was this very quality that made her all the more captivating and dangerous. In the woman's left hand was a large black engraved blade that threatened to freeze him for daring a glance at it. No doubt it was what halved Rin's Tachi moments ago. What did... Rean fumbled for the words as he clutched the useless handle tightly in his hand. The fair-haired woman only smiled as she looked down upon it. The blade is in her right, clearly. Your weapon was very fine, but it was never any match for my friend, I'm afraid. She spun the black blade in her hands around gently before holding it up toward the night sky to seemingly display it with pride. It wasn't hard to see why she would boast about possessing such a weapon. He had seen many a blade of historical significance, but instinct told him that hers was better than any of those. The blunt side featured an intricate design of deep gray that, while he could not discern its meaning there and then, he knew was nothing less than a work of art. There was an aura about it, one cold as ice, that seemed to reject its worldly surroundings, making it capable of cutting through anything it desired. It came in company with a beautiful hilt of deep red that contrasted its body without feeling out of place. This juxtaposition was, in a sense, much a reflection of its wielder, with their two opposing natures being distinctive, yet also as one. Green thought, as he observed, her blade was clearly something special, but that alone did not explain the strength behind her attack. He had never heard of the technique she used, but it was clearly connected to the 8 leaves in some way, and the skills she showed in executing it made her equal to a divine blade. He was so fixated as these thoughts rushed through his mind that he was only brought out by her sudden laughter. I didn't think I'd ever meet you here. I wonder if our old master is behind guiding us to the same place. Or if it's just a happy coincidence. Wait. The manner in which she spoke and her familiarity with Rean gave him a theory. That technique you just used was really something. Consider me is this her? That technique you used was really something. Consider me intrigued. It's put you a league above more interesting than our other senior practitioners. So he was right. Are you? But before he could hear what he already knew, she turned away, refusing to let him finish the question. He isn't here, so why don't you run on back to your family? Go and make the most of your vacation. Yeah. Okay, so perspective was right. Just don't let your skill with the blade slip. The world will need it again one day. In Kuro 3, Rean Schwarzer will return! She spoke with a certain satisfaction as she pointed down to the other half of his broken blade, and then she leaped high, seemingly disappearing on the other side of the moon. Rean could only stare, dumbfounded as she vanished. He couldn't even speak. Kurigane left with her. Hey, there's this. I think many people have seen this piece of art before quite a lot, but I never realized actually until now that Tachi is actually broken in half. I always just thought like it was drawn in such a way that we couldn't see it, but in reality, it actually is Tachi being broken in half. The Ikaruga, the Black God One Blade School, and our senior practitioners. Rean had been unable to fulfill his objective. Not just that, he was left with countless new questions about the people he encountered in the mountain itself. He felt there was meaning behind being guided to this specific place, but how important it was or what it entailed, he did not know. And yet, the person responsible for discerning that won't be me. Looking down his broken Tachi, he was struck anew with how massive the world truly was. And he realized that, now that his master was confirmed to be elsewhere, the purpose of his visit to Longlai was nothing more than to enjoy a wonderful, ordinary vacation with his family. This meeting here was but a peculiar coincidence. For now, at least. When I get back, I'll need to reforge my Tachi. And myself. Something stirred in this region, all across Calvard, but there was nothing he could do about that as he was. All he could do was focus on training and bettering himself so that he could one day play a part against the next threat that loomed over the distant horizon. New resolve welling in his soul, he made his way through the now still mountain trail, back to where his loving family awaited. Another Hot Springs Paradise, the end. That was a really cool one. I really enjoyed that one. I also, like, it's probably going to be a huge meme, like, when he does eventually come back, because that's just kind of, like, how it is and stuff like that. Because Falcom loves Reen. But whatchamacallit, I think it'd be really cool to play as Reen in the Kuro combat style with the hybrid, with the action part and the, you know, the turn-based thing that they got going, at least from the gameplay footage I've seen. So if he does come back in Kuro 3, who knows? Kuro 3 is going to be announced next year, so we'll see what comes of it. But I think if he does come back, it would be really fun to play with Reen in that combat style, for sure. Reen can't do anything without becoming a meme, exactly. Oh look, we have a little thread now. Oh, I should have told you guys to keep the name hidden. Ah, whatever. Actually, the name doesn't really matter, does it? That's not too much of a spoiler. Although I would still say let's keep it as minimal as possible. Let's keep it as minimal as possible. We're almost there to Daybreak, so for those still wanting to stay hidden, they can stay hidden still. I guess a name doesn't ultimately matter, but whatever. I said it is? I don't know, I'm on the fence. Is a name a spoiler? Not really. But whatever, we'll move on from that. We're only an hour in. Am I actually gonna finish this on time? That's crazy. I said I was gonna go for longer, but here we are. All right, you know what? Maybe what I'll do is I'll end it on... I might go for a little longer and just do some more beach things. How about that? If we end too early, or I'll do mini games or something. I don't know. We can awooga. Just to end the Trails meme, we can end the Cold Steel saga. We can awooga. Unless the third part of this is like 2 hours long. April, year 1208 of the Septine calendar. Aramis Academy is a famous educational institution in the Calvardian capital of Edith. The name derives from an artist central to Calvard's democratic revolution 100 years ago. Yes, complain about the yes-no writing in the beach episode. Oh, yeah. I will happily do that again. That's how I'll get viewers, too, is just looking at anime chests again. Because that stream did really well. This was also reflected in its goal of nurturing new talent and helping to forge a brighter future for a new republic. The Academy placed great value on traditional education, of course, but it also encouraged the perspectives of new cultures and values, attracting many an independent mind from across Zemuria. It was a storied place of learning that reflected the Republic's views as a whole. This story, for its part, begins not long after the springtime festival held yearly to welcome the new student body. It was just another morning at the Academy, countless students shuffling through its grounds, when one of them in particular happened to draw an unusual amount of attention. The young lady had long, swift, soft violet hair crowned with a black ribbon. Her figure had been cut very respectably as she matured into a young woman of 17 years, and yet her face still held traces of girlhood days bygone. The beauty she was, she never failed to turn inquisitive heads as she strolled along. Red and bright! I will say though, they've always just done Ren right in design. And even like her child design, very well done. In the, you know, Sky and stuff like that, and kind of really like in Sky SC, right? Like really kind of sends that shock value about Ren of being like, oh my god, this child is crazy. And she's like, you know, commanding the giant patter matter robot and stuff like that. And then you get to Sky the Third and you see Stardor 14, you're like, oh my god, Ren, you poor child. And then you see her again in Crossbell, right? It's like, oh my gosh. Then you see her, you know, her new design in Cold Steel 4 and stuff like that, and it's like, wow, you actually look pretty darn good. You still kind of have that like cool beauty aura about you, and then here's this, and it's like, oh yeah, Yeah. For sure. They made her very respectable here. I do love, and also I think this might be my favorite design of Ren, her in this school outfit in Calvard. But I'm also a sucker for the color purple because it's my favorite color, so take that as you will. Her name was Ren Bright. She was a second-year student from Genus Royal Academy in Liberal. She was a second-year student from Genus Royal Academy in Liberal, now studying in Aramis as part of an exchange program. She had only just arrived in the spring. Ren's goal in attending was not to further her education. She'd been considered highly gifted since she was a child, having already earned several doctorates in years past, and there was little more a new academy could reasonably teach her. Her goal, in reality, was to use it as a front to operate freely in Calvard. It was hard to find one better than being a student, since she had already found the role relatively foolproof during her time at Genus. Even if there were limits to just how much a student could get away with, society as a whole was soft on school children. To move freely would also require drawing as little attention as possible. She aimed to conduct herself modestly, as any elegant young lady who wished to remain unseen should during her time at Aramis. Aramis. Is it Aramis or Aramis? It's probably Aramis, isn't it? I do believe Ren has now tied Olivier for most game appearances in the series. You're right. You are right. She might actually have more now, right? No. Sky, 3, 3, 5, 5. Olivier was 1 there and 1, 2, so 7, 5. But then she comes back in Cold Steel 3, so there's 7 there. 9 there, because of Cold Steel 4. 10 for Hajimari. And then 8 Hajimari. I think you're right, they are tied. All things considered. I have a notebook next to me that I could easily write stuff down in, but I'm not. I'm just gonna mental math that one. The handy dandy notebook. Well, Reen wasn't in CS3, though she did appear in a Cephia cutscene. Reen was definitely not in Cold Steel 3, bro. That is so true. It was only New Class 7. Reen was just an illusion. I think it counts. Even if you appear in a cutscene, I think it still counts. Like, she's been mentioned in every game, for sure. Ren did not appear in FC, CS1, and CS2. Olivia did not appear in Zero or either Kuro game. Wait. Olivia did not appear in Zero? When did the... Olivia was in Azure. Wait, really? Oh, I swear, I thought he appeared in Zero during the festival. During the was it called the Founders Festival? No, what was that festival called? The Independent, I don't think he did. So that whole side quest with Olivier was Azure? With Mueller being the Men in Black security guard? That was in conjunction with a trade conference. Oh. That's when he did the dance with Mishi, huh? Oh. Alright. Not gonna lie. Remembering what happened in Zero versus what happened at Azure is very difficult. Their pacing is all over the place. Azure, the only thing you remember is the beginning and all of Chapter 4 and finale. Zero, all you remember is, like, the ending. And the festival, because of how long it is. Visiting Michelin was until Azure either. That I remember. God, I cannot keep track of what happened in the Crossbow Saga. Oh my god. So yeah, they're tied in 9 games. Interesting. You remember them when they get peak, legit. Cause like Azure was the intro. Was it really just the intro, the conference, and then the big shebang? There was one more thing in there, right? Because 0 was the intro, going to each of the different areas, like Armorica, Mines, and St. Ursula. Then there was the festival. And then there was the, festival, which led to finding Kia, which then led to drugs. And the finale. And Azure was the intro of it. Orcus Tower and Trade Conference, and then the big shebang? No, there has to be one more thing, right? My offhand comment sparked a much longer detour than I expected. It's fine. It's fine. It's all good. I'm just trying to, like, piece together what the hell happened in these games. Sky is, like, comparatively easier, right? Like, it's just, you know, comparatively, I guess. My favorite pastime is asking Azure fans what happened in Chapter 1. I legit don't think anything really important happened. Because the conference was what? Chapter 2, right? They were talking a bunch, but... Oh, Crossbell, you were a weird duology. Chapter 1 was just setting up all the new villains till everybody gets back in the party, right? Yeah, because they were talking about, like, the red constellation or something like that. That, like, you know, now appeared in the area of Ravache and stuff like that. But I don't think anything else meaningful happened. There was just one very big problem with this. I stopped because I was asking what the pronunciation of, is it Aramis or Aramis? It's probably, you know what? I have Google Translate. You can tell me how to pronounce it. How would Google pronounce this word? That's the second one you said, Aramis? Aramis. Okay, that works too. Aramis, no, Aramis. Dude, I'm so on the Ara mentality. I see ARA. I see ARA and I'm like, bro, Ara. You know what I'm what I'm here for, eh? You know. You know what's up, eh? Aramis. Much easier to say. All right, here we go. Just remember one of the 3 musketeers. Oh, I'm gonna disappoint you sorely. I remember watching 3 Musketeers as a kid. I don't remember their names. I'm sorry to disappoint. I don't remember their names. Good morning, Miss Bright. One of them is named Aramis. Oh, okay. What were the other 2? Okay, now I feel like I have to watch the 3 Musketeers again. The only thing I know about the 3 Musketeers is, like, the Pokemon. Huh? They're Pokemon, too? Athos and Porthos are the other 2. Oh. Aramis, Athos, and Porthos. Interesting. There's 4 Musketeer Pokemon in Gen 5. Whoa. Alrighty. Isn't she just gorgeous? Yuna Fields with the raid. Oh. It's a good thing we're taking a, it's a good thing I'm not even doing the thing I'm supposed to be doing right now. Shout out to Yuna. How was your stream? Welcome, one and all. My name is Golden Drummer, predominantly Gerald Drummer 730, but you can call me Goldie or Golden or anything in those veins. Predominantly an RPG / bullet hell streamer here, but I do quite a lot of other things on the internet. Yuna, I hope you enjoyed your stream. I believe you were playing Bloodstained. If you need to go chill out after stream, you know what you gotta do. Welcome, Raiders. Welcome, Tramp BBQ. You finished Bloodstained and Red Lantern? Let's go. Pro gamer Yuna out here. Let's go. I'm glad you were able to finish. You've joined us all today for the final stream of Trails into Reverie, where I'm reading just some post-game content / setups for future Trails games. So kick back, relax, grab a blanket, grab some snacks, and enjoy some golden story time. And for all those on my chat, go follow Yuna. They are super cool, super chill, pretty funny. They're an adorable VTuber as well, with a cat. Cat VTuber. Also, Yuna's emotes are like so top tier. Not even joking. Yuna has like top tier emotes. I love them so much. Trails is going great. Verizon, Cabalion, Terrakion, and Keldeo. I read, no, Verizon. I was freaking out. Tell me I'm an American. Tell me I'm an American without telling me I'm American, because I read Verizon as Verizon, the telemarket, the telecompany. Because that's what I have for my internet. I have Verizon. Whatever. Fudge Pokemon. We're going back to Trails. That's a common joke. You're not alone. All right, cool. Look, I see her. She's so beautiful, and everyone says she's just as smart too. All she had to do was walk down the hall to be showered with greetings and whispers of envy and admiration. Her look alone was already enough to make her the talk of the school. But after one of her teachers let slip that she received a perfect score on her entrance exam, there was suddenly not a single person who didn't know her name. The plot is that Team Plasma just to switch everyone to 5G. The other students cared not how much she was wanting to avoid drawing attention. She was getting it whether she liked it or not. Naturally, not everyone was pleased with the booming popularity this transfer student had attained in less than a month. While most were busy fawning over Ren's arrival that morning, another group watched the charade unfold from the shadows, echoing audible tuts of displeasure. Poor Ren. Ren had yet to be enrolled in any club, so as soon as the day's lessons had come to an end, she packed up her belongings and stood to leave. A word, if I may, Miss Bright. It was a fellow classmate surrounded by a small faction of students clearly loyal to their King Bee. Oh my god, Ren's face! Certainly. Though instinct told her this was not going to be a conversation she wanted to have, she made an effort to pretend otherwise. She would not be provoked into behaving as anything but a mature, modest young lady. I've been wanting to get to know you better for some time now, you see, so I was wondering if you might join me for dinner this evening. The boy, Ronald Griffith, presented a gentlemanly smile. Ren was very much used to being asked out like this, and never once did she accept. She always made up some excuses to turn them down. Today would be no different. I'm ever so sorry, but I'm afraid I have something urgent to take care of after school today. Some other time, perhaps? This was usually enough to get them to give up, but Ronald was a persistent one. Well, that won't do. I have something very important to discuss with you, and I've already booked us a table at a very fine restaurant so we could discuss in detail. Is there really no way your business can wait? There was something ominous about his smile. Ren couldn't help but be curious what he was thinking. I'm afraid it can't. I'm so sorry after you've gone out of your way to prepare ahead of time. Still, I could spare a little time now, so I'd be happy to talk here if that's alright. So not tonight, then? A pity. Ronald's tone read one less of genuine sadness and more irritation than things were not going according to plan. Well aware that he let slip his true feelings on the matter, he quickly composed himself and smiled. Now is better than ever, I suppose. This does concern everyone in the room, so perhaps it's all the better said here. To this, Ren glanced around the room, noticing that only she, Ronald, and his lackeys were all who remained. Most were likely on their way home or in their respective clubs, while some would have ordinarily been in the classroom at this hour. She was certain none wanted anything to do with Ronald and his group. He took a step toward her, then began to speak. I'm well aware, Miss Bright, that you've come all the way from distant Liberl to be here. It's not unusual for students to transfer from afar for family reasons. But I hear in your case you came to Calvar just to learn in these hallowed halls. I cannot help but deeply admire your spirit and thirst for knowledge. Pure theatrics this one. At the same time, I worry about you. Brilliant you may be, but living alone in a far-off land must be a terribly lonely and challenging affair. We all need someone to depend on in our lives, and that would be especially so in your situation. So if you don't mind me saying so, Miss Bright, I believe you're in need of someone to look after you, to protect you. At least he shut up, giving Ren a chance to respond. She scrutinized him closely. In short, you'd like for me to join your circle of friends, correct? Ronald's smarmy smile broadened. His father was a senator in the Republic's parliament, meaning he had a significant amount of political power. His son used this to his full advantage, ever since joining the academy. Ronald had used his father's name to form a faction of sorts among the students, forcibly building his reputation until he was a leading candidate for student council president in the election staged in half a month's time. His goal, Ren assumed, was to bring the hottest talk of the academy into his faction to further secure his chances of victory. I think you'll find that joining us would help you feel much more secure and home at here. Or perhaps you don't yet appreciate just how much of a difference having someone like me backing you would make on the life of an exchange student. True, she mused inwardly. Being in a group of high school standing would make it easier for her to gather information. If she could leverage his father's connections to build more of her own, that would pay itself in dividends in the days to come. The pompous boy had no way of knowing the actual circumstances that brought her to, Aramis. No. Yeah. Aramis. Yeah. Aramis. His proposal was, in fact, very beneficial to her. She returned his smile with a modest one of her own as she answered. You're kind to think so much of me, but I'm afraid I'll have to decline. Clear, unambiguous rejection. Ronald's lips were still curled into a smile, but he could not hide the twitch in his brow, nor could his lackeys hide their shock. They had, by all accounts, expected her to answer the opposite. Are you sure you won't reconsider, Miss Bright? Surely someone as brilliant as you can see why accepting my offer would be in your best interest. I fear if you don't now, you may, well, come to regret it. The last words were a hair slower and deliberate to intimidate her. Ren, of course, was never going to fall for it. I'll admit it's a tempting proposal, tempting enough to inspire one to consider helping a certain someone win the student council election. If only that someone weren't you. What did you say? The sudden taunt caught him completely off guard, resulting in a flare of irritation escaping him. Ren, for her part, was unruffled by the change. I imagine you don't need me to explain why, but I will to be sure. I have been very aware that the threatening glares I always attract on the way to school every morning have been coming all from you. They've been a constant in my life ever since just before the festival. All were flabbergasted by the statement, their silence confirming what she said to be true. She continued. Now, you have every right to regard me with caution. I'm well aware of how much I stand out despite my best efforts. Taking potential threats under your wing is a strategically sound move too. However, that your target was so easily able to see through your scheme shows everyone here just how inept you really are. I have better things to do than assist someone so incompetent and small-minded. With a shrug and a sigh in a somewhat dramatic fashion, Ren stood before Ronald, his shoulders trembling from rage. Good day to you all. Ren gave a courteous nod of acknowledgement before leaving the room, paying no mind to the wide eyes and open slack jaw she left behind. Get him, Ren. Get him. So Agate ended up getting pretty beat up from another one of Mom's crazy jobs she threw at him. We did get some good data out of it, but ouch. Your mom is always so funny. That night in the dormitory, Ren and Tita were engrossed in deep conversation through their laptops. Look at Ren! Look at Tita! I'm telling you, man, if Tita doesn't come by in like the games after Kuro, I will riot. She's such an adorable character. And it's always the same old. It's always same old with all of you. I'm surprised there's anything left of Agate left with how often you tell me she has him nearly facing death. Tita can come. Agate and Erika have to stay. Yes, agreed. Oh god, breathe. By the time Tita does make it over to that side of the country, on the eastern side, Agate is gonna need a walker. Dude's gonna be so old. You two are in a rut. I know something that could spice things up. Maybe try adding a little romance to the mix, like a couple of bright-eyed lovebirds we know. But we have agreed to go somewhere next week, so we're not in a complete rut. Tita, no! Tita! You're better than this. Well, isn't that something? The stairs to adulthood await you, my dear friend. Ren! Tita graduated from the ranch campus in Arabonia just as Ren left for Calvard, leaving them no time to spend with one another in person. That wasn't ideal, of course, but from a hint of sadness came the habit of talking like this once a week so they could stay in each other's lives. They discussed anything, from their new lives and environments to the fruits of their research, occasionally stumbling into a serious topical matter or two along the way. It sounds like a legal confrontation between the Verne Company and Epstein Foundation is inevitable at this point. I know. I can't believe this is really happening. Both frowned at their screens. A recent development concerning the Calvardian industrial giant Verne Company has become a key source of concern for them as of late. Whoa. Is that Tio? Yo! Look how cool she looks! Yo! I also want Tio to come back. It began soon after Crosswell returned to normalcy after the Supreme Leader's takeover the previous year. Professor Erica Russell approached the Verne Company to propose that they join the West Cimmerian Tech Union that she had been hard at work forming, and to no one's surprise, they refused. But before Erica and the rest of the engineers involved could even finish getting ready to go and change Verne's mind, something happened to make the Union the least of anyone's priorities. The independent development of a new generation of orbments and their generations-long partner in this subset of technology, the Epstein Foundation, would not be a collaborator. The latter had been key supporters of Zimuria's orbment developments and orbital technology in general since their very inception. Battle orbments were no exception to this. The Foundation had known their way around them since their very first model, drafting the incredible concept that had been used as a base ever since. Even the Reinford Company, before the Battle of Jormungand, had not thought to develop their Arcus models on their own, instead favoring to develop them in partnership with the Storied Institute. The announcement was, quite simply, unprecedented, and it sent shockwaves throughout the industry. The Epstein Foundation was also less than pleased about being cast aside in this matter. Wait, what? I will probably not do that one. I will probably refund that one because we're in a semi-serious cutscene here. I will probably not do that one, Guavs. I will refund that one to you. Where's my thingy? Let's do that one. There we go. Yesterday, 3 days ago. Done. TLDR Vern is making their orbments and Epstein is not. Okay, yeah. I don't know why. The way I read this made it seem like Epstein was mad that they were not going to be a collaborator in this whole thing. It just, I don't know. I read that very weirdly. But also, hey, Guavs, how's it going? How you doing, dude? Okay, now it's all clicking in my head. Watching the Lions game? Ooh, fun. How's the stream going so far? Pretty good. Lots of reading. It's been a fun time reading so far. While there were certainly legal concerns regarding who owned the patent to this technology, the greater concern was that their stable position in the industry as a whole was now becoming unstable. They initially responded by attempting to resolve this through peaceful means, but when those attempts proved fruitless, it was reported that they were preparing for what could only be an ugly international legal dispute. I'd say Vern has the upper hand if this ever makes it to court. Unlike the previous Ramda orbments, this 6th generation is designed to set a whole new standard. All of its main features are packed with new tech, with some new features still being kept under wraps. I wonder what those are. What could they be trying to develop that's important enough to ruin their relationship with the Foundation? Though I have heard about the government telling the Vern Company to focus more on weapons development. I have too. It sounds like they're planning to significantly revamp the military's weaponry. The official story is that they're planning on slimming the military down, but if they're pairing that with the latest in weapons development, then they're still just as powerful, maybe even more so. As part of the war's ceasefire agreement, Erebony was required to downsize their military, bringing it more in line with that of Calvard's. Yet, if the Republic were to expand the capabilities of its military, this recently forced equilibrium in superpowers would quickly be broken. Whatever may be true, I've got a lot of questions. I need answers too. Maybe it would be worth visiting the Vern Company's headquarters in Basel at some point. You haven't learned anything more about where Professor Hamilton is at the moment, right? Nothing new or concrete, at least. Sounds like she's continuing her research eastward, but I haven't heard anything more specific than that. Mom and Grandpa haven't had any luck in contacting her either. I'm not surprised since that area isn't very well connected, but it's still unfortunate. She's a lot more personable than Professor Schmidt, so having her on our side would be would help out a lot. Tita could only laugh. Yeah, there's a lot of worrying stories about going on around now about PMCs and stuff like that. It makes you wonder if none of this would even be happening if she was still acting as an advisor for the Vern Company. The deeper into the conversation they went, the more Tita could feel her spirits sinking. The political climate in Western Zemuria was unusually stable at the moment, with its nations basking in prosperity. But she could not shake the feeling that this peace was built over rotting wood, and that it could all come crashing down with but the slightest provocation. This was becoming especially true in the tech world, as it had undergone rapid growth in recent years compared to other fields. So rapid, in fact, that no base could possibly sustain its sudden weight without cracks beginning to form. Try not to dwell on the worst case scenario, Tita. This peace might rest on a knife's edge, but there's still plenty we can do to preserve it. That's why I'm here right now, and that's also why you're working so hard too. We could find a million problems in the world if we wanted, but pessimism isn't going to make them go away, right? The words filled Tita with the right amount of comfort she needed in that precise moment. Yeah, I guess you're right. Thanks, Ren. They continued on, losing track of time as they talked well into the night. Before they knew it, the clock had struck 12. Well, it's getting really late, so I should probably be going. I'll talk to you soon, okay? Alright. Good night, Tita. Night. Oh! Tita suddenly remembered something. The exclamation stopped Ren just as she was about to end the call. Estelle and Joshua told me to ask if you're doing okay in school. Those two always worry too much. You'd think I wasn't talking to them, too. She couldn't help but remember her interaction with Ronald after class, but Ren quickly drove the thought from her mind. It wasn't worth dredging up. Tell them they can rest easy. Everything is fine. Good. They wanted me to let them know if you were being bullied so they could fly over and help. Ren could only sigh. Honestly, do they think I can't keep myself safe from a few schoolyard bullies? Actually, they said they were more worried about what you do to them than what they do to you. At her friend's silence, Tita couldn't help but burst out laughing. I worry about you too, obviously, but they're probably right. How awful of you. Even if that were to happen to me, I wouldn't do half of what you're imagining. Not anymore, anyway. See, it's saying that kind of thing that makes people worry. I'm a lady now. I need the magnanimity. Yeah, magnanimity. Estelle and Josh are being helicopter parents in the best way possible. Magnanimity to forgive the transgressions of others. There you go. We're just gonna go with that. I'm also trying to do what I can to avoid standing on too much in school. You can try, but I think that's always been a lost cause. Anyway, now I'm really going to go before I remember anything else. Say hi to Zin for me if you run into him. I'm planning to go see him and when everything calms down here, so we'll do. I've been meaning to go and see someone else I've been indebted in the past too. By the time the two of them had finished talking and ended the call, one day had given way to the next. Yes! Alley of Silence, such a great field theme. The morning dawned yet another day of school. However, just as she left her classroom in the main building at the start of lunch and went to descend the staircase, she felt someone suddenly draw near from behind her. Reflexively, she dodged out of the way. A female student then entered her field of vision. She had lost her balance, her expression a mix of fear and surprise. She passed through the spot Ren had been moments before, but her momentum showed no sign of fading. If someone didn't stop her, she was going to start tumbling down the stairs. Ren was quick to grab her and pull her close. She supported the girl's weight with one arm, with all the grace of someone taking part in a ballroom dance, saving her from falling. Several students happened to witness the event unfold and could not help but elicit gasps of admiration. Noticing that the girl's eyes were still unfocused, Ren gently addressed her. Are you alright? You aren't hurt, are you? Finally realizing the situation she was in, the girl, whose face had become quite red, quickly straightened her posture in a fluster. Yes, I'm okay. You're Ren Bright from the next class over, aren't you? Thank you so much for helping me. You're very welcome. But I would have to caution you from losing your composure like that right next to a staircase. Do you have some really urgent business to take care of? It's funny because the word anonymity means a feeling of hostility, where magnanimity means the opposite. I cannot. Anonymity. I have to go. I can't even say it normally. Phenomena. The girl first frowned in response, then paused to think, then answered. Nothing I can think of. It's weird, but even though it was probably my imagination, it felt like someone had pushed me from behind. Obviously, no one here would do that, so I must have just bumped into someone by accident. She thanked her rescuer again before disappearing into the distance. The situation she had deemed her imagination, however, lingered in Ren's mind. If I hadn't sensed something was amiss, both of us would have fallen down the stairs. We could have been badly hurt. Is it really just a coincidence? Or was it a deliberate action by someone who wants to hurt me? If it was the latter... She didn't have anything to support this theory, but with it came a familiar sensation. The feeling of malicious stares focusing on her from the shadows. It took surprisingly little time for her suspicions to gain evidence. After finishing gym class the next day, Ren made for the classroom and began preparing for her next lesson. As she did, she immediately noticed something was amiss. All of her textbooks had been glued shut with an excessive amount of adhesive. Try as she did to open them, it was a lost cause to get to even a single page. It was an obvious attempt to harass her. The culprits behind the act were equally obvious. Not far from where Ren was sitting, Ronald Griffith and his lackeys, whom she so memorably turned away 2 days prior, were snickering to themselves. Their eyes mockingly focused on Ren all the while. They're not even interested in hiding what they're like anymore. I'm sure at this point they want me to know who did it to intimidate me. This latest development also confirmed in her mind that they were responsible for trying to push her down the stairs the day before. What a pitiful sight they were, because she refused to join their group. Her existence was, in their eyes, now nothing more than a hindrance to Ronald's campaign for student council president. They would stop at nothing to either break her spirit and force her to join, or shame her into lowering her popularity amongst the student body. It didn't matter that Ren had no interest in taking part in the election. After further inspecting the state of her textbooks, Ren's expression grew difficult to read. I think I can make them usable again, but not with what little time I have left before class. The bell soon chimed to signal the start of our lesson. Ren left her textbooks out on the top of her desk, making no effort to open them throughout. Her instructor was, of course, less than pleased about this perceived slight against them, picking her to answer a question as an attempt to chide her poor behavior. "Miss Bright, please read the next paragraph aloud for us." Ronald and his friends let out a series of pleased giggles at this, their minds delighting at the thought of a flustered Ren being told off and humiliated in front of the entire class. But what transpired in reality played out very differently from their fantasies. Without missing a beat, Ren did exactly as she was told, reciting the selected paragraph she had been asked to read word for word. All while her textbook remained closed. Did you memorize the entire book?" Even the instructor could not hide their surprise. But of course, as a student of Aramis Academy, I would never dare to compromise in preparing for my lessons. Ren responded with such grace that she, of course, drew in more sighs and coos of admiration from both her instructor and peers alike. I feel like this plan could have also been spoiled by someone loaning her their book. Yeah, exactly. Like in reality, right? You just be like, oh, 1 second. I'ma just grab my seat partner's notebook, right? It's all good to go. It was only Ronald and his posse who groaned with sullen expressions. The next incident came on Ren's way to school the next morning. She entered the school gates with a horde of other students and was just about to step into the building when she noticed a foul smell coming from above her. She looked upward, noticing a portion of the fencing surrounding the building's rooftop was falling directly above her. Other students noticed at the same time, letting out screams of horror and worries that they could do nothing about. I could get out of the way easily if I wanted, but the fencing was over 2 ards in length. She could escape unharmed, but the other students around her would likely not. That was a risk she was unwilling to take. Grasping the battle ornament hidden in her bag, she cried out, "Airstrike!" A sphere of wind formed in response to her incantation, flying upward at high speeds. She carefully controlled its power so that instead of sending the fence flying, it simply canceled out its momentum instead, allowing her to hop on and catch it with ease. This was no accident. The smell makes it obvious. It was a distinct scent of liquid extracted from a certain plant monster. One of its properties was to imitate the natural corrosion of metal, resulting in its application in certain solvents. This made the fence falling a deliberate action the perpetrator had been trying to disguise as an accident, and with Ren having been the target of several malicious acts already, the culprit was clear. Again, she could feel the presence of those familiar, hateful stares pouring into her from the shadows. But again as well, they were not the only ones with eyes on her. Whoa! That was awesome! Did you see that? Is there anything she can't do? Ren's quiet meditation was disrupted by a multitude of cheers and applause from all around her. As if she were a performer just about to leave the stage, she gave an elegant bow in response. This would not be the last time she endured harassment from Ronald's group, but each and every time they thought they bested her, she would handle herself with exemplary skill, their efforts only serving to make her more popular. The state of affairs continued for several more days before seemingly out of patience Ronald summoned Ren behind the school building after lessons were over for the day. He stood oppressively before her, his lackeys behind him, with the composure he attempted to feign before, now replaced by a plain, vile anger. Look at this smug Ren. She's like, I could end you right now in 2 seconds flat. Let me give it to you straight, Ren Bright. You are an eyesore. Even that gentlemanly air he impersonated before was gone. Really? Well, that's not a very polite thing to say to a classmate. Don't try and act cute and innocent. I've put too much damn time and mirror into building my position up at this academy, but who's always at the center of attention instead? It's you. It's always you. It's like you're deliberately trying to sabotage my chances of success, and that's the last thing I can afford right now. The more livid Ronald became, the more unruffled Ren was in turn. You're only sabotaging yourself by setting me up to succeed over and over again? You're only sabotaging yourself by setting me up to succeed over and over again. You are aware of that, aren't you? Had she not been forced to defend herself against him over and over again, she would not have received nearly as much attention. This being pointed out caused Ronald to return as an audible tut of frustration. Who cares about how it happens? The point is this has gone on long enough. So, I'm going to have to ask you to step off the stage for a while. What do you mean? Ronald seemed to present some of his initial cool form when they
Hamster.
Hamster, oh my god, good morning. Hey Iman, what's up? When they first talked as he answered. Yes, because a hamster is what he's going to use to take Ren down. Oh, I mean something very simple. You just won't come to school until the election is over. And if I refuse? You just got up? Isn't it like 9:45 p.m.? To this, he raised a hand, and in response, his lackey stepped forward to surround her. The boys were unusually well built for their age, showing off their hulking forms in hopes of intimidating her. Refusing is not an option, I'm afraid. If you aren't going to oblige with me willingly, we will just have to make it so you can't come to school for a while. His lackeys cracked their knuckles dramatically to clarify their leader's intent. Well, that's no good. I think we both know that would constitute a grave violation of the school rules. Something about her inflection caused him to mistake her commentary as showing a hint of fear, further fueling their desire to dominate the situation. No one's watching a place like this. And even if someone did happen to see my father as a politician, he can make it go away. If they don't willingly choose to ignore what they saw, deference to my position, that is, everyone at this academy seems to already know their place, you see? You see? Everyone except you. His smile then was so unpleasant that a sigh escaped Ren. Oh, I think you're the one who doesn't know your place. I don't want to be rough with him after what Tita said, but he needs to be taught a good, hard lesson. Ronald continued on, oblivious to what was running through his apparent victim's mind. Now do as I say! His lackeys drew closer, readying to seize her. I'll keep it mild, but I still want this to hurt for them, just enough to set them on the right track. I don't think Estelle or Joshua would object to that. But just as she was about to act, stop this at once! A girl's shout could be heard from the direction of the school building. She was, of course, not shouting at Ren. And who are you? Ronald was visibly irritated. Though the girl appeared to be visibly nervous, she continued to stand her ground. Oh, it's you! I also know who they are, but I again will not say the name for spoiler sakes. Although, if you know, you know. I don't know. I don't know anymore what's right and what's wrong. Who knows? Well, oh, look at Ren's face. She's so cute. I didn't mean to listen in, but I couldn't help but overhear what was happening here. You can't go through with this. What you're doing is wrong. The girl stepped forward till she was directly in front of Ren to protect her from her schoolyard bullies. As she did so, the light revealed sleek, dazzling blonde hair that shimmered much like the sunshine above. Ren recognized her to be a first-year student who lived in the dormitory next to her own. They weren't close to one another. At most, they only exchanged polite greetings with one another as they passed each other in the hall. She always seemed like a quiet, polite young woman with a good upbringing. However, not the type whose eyes would glow with resolve as she put her well-being on the line for someone else's. Ren was surprised by this, as was Ronald, though he was less than impressed. He never fathomed that another student would dare to resist him. One thing he did sense was that her resistance was little more than a brave front, with excitement at the thought of stripping that front. One thing he did sense was that her resistance was little more than a brave front. With excitement at the thought of stripping that front bare, he grew a sadistic smile and addressed her. Is it now? Well, how fortunate for me that I have you to show me the error of my ways. Ren can wait. You're a first year, I presume. I'm going to need to give you a lesson in just how right and wrong works in our society. Upon his signal, his lackey shifted to surround their new target over Ren. She began to tremble as danger closed in on her, but she still did not move. Don't you dare. This time it was Ren who spoke up. I'll give you what you want, so don't you dare touch her. But... You sure about that? She wasn't planning on that response, but Ronald was more than happy to have his win in any form. I'll stay away from school for a while. That's what you want, right? But then you... The experience of studying abroad has been rather tiring for me, so maybe I do need some rest. Ren's voice was gentle in an attempt to soothe the kind girl's concerns. Ronald, meanwhile, made no attempt to hide the joy he felt at victory, laughing heartily with all the glee of a spoiled child. Good! Now everyone knows their place here. I see no reason to harm either of you now that I've got what I want. Consider yourselves lucky now that I've decided to let you go. Ronald turned away and made to leave, his lackeys following suit. Good day to you then. When we next meet, this school will be all mine. And then he was gone. With only the girls left behind the school building, the younger of the two looked up at her I cannot see the comma. Looked up at her senior, concern welling in her expression. I really am all right. You're very kind to worry. Ren's smile was one of genuine kindness. From then on, Ren did indeed stop coming to school, citing illness as the official reason behind her absence. The students then gathered in the Academy's auditorium several days later for the long-awaited Student Council election. Aramis Academy as a whole placed great importance on the autonomy of its students, and as such the Student Council exercised an unusual amount of power. It also weighed upon them a massive amount of responsibility, such as being the sole planner for the Academy's festival, a symbol and celebration of the spring in the capital. This, however, also led to the position of being a major status symbol even long after graduation. All of this was why a large number of students put their names forward to become the Student Council president every year. I know we talked about this before, but for those in the States, I don't think our Student Council gets this much prominence, do they? Like, they exist. Like, they do the things, but not to this degree. Definitely not to this degree. It's like odd how much prominence student councils in Japanese writing get. That's what the school board is for, yeah. All of this is why a large number of students put their names forward to become the student council president every year. Yet this year, a great majority of the most promising candidates dropped out under mysterious circumstances, leaving only Ronald and the others associated with him on the ballot. Even Japanese student councils don't have this much power. I imagine that to be the case, yeah, and it's more hyperbolized for the point of media, like written media and stuff like that. But like, god dang, it's like the adults don't even really care. It's just like, you know what? Go on, you're student council president. You just own the school. Congratulations. It's probably a good thing that they don't have that much power. It's probably a good thing. I couldn't exactly boast about winning by default. Ronald and his supporters sat in the rest area, chuckling among themselves at the whole affair. Perhaps his name wasn't the only one on the ballot, but none of the others had done any certifiable campaigning, meaning his election was positively assured. Eventually, the time came for him to give his speech. It was a compelling one. He played the part of a respectable young gentleman as he delivered it, speaking with that same silver tongue he inherited well from his father. There were some moments where he failed to hide his arrogance, but as no one else had prepared a speech to give, this was not the blow to his campaign it otherwise would have been. Now, if you could turn your eyes to the screen he spoke of was at the back of the auditorium. This was a rather notable feature to have in the school building, to have anywhere, and was installed several years prior for use in lectures and to display recreational films. Other nations had just yet to indulge in such luxuries, showing just how far ahead Calvard was in its technology. Up until then, the students had used it to display photographs during their speeches, but Ronald intended to take it another step further. He wanted to share a promotional video, and not one of a simple makeshift, self-produced one, He wanted to share a promotional video, and not a simple makeshift self-produced one that might ordinarily be presented by an amateur, but rather a professional work that he paid a considerable amount of Mira for. Its quality was genuinely impressive. His victory was well written in stone, but this he knew would cement it that much more. Convinced this would serve as the perfect beginning to his ascension to the top of social hierarchy, he started the video. The musical number it played was rousing, fitting. What followed then was Ronald appearing on screen. So, how much Mira do you want for supporting me? I can make it worth your while. What? The video playing before them was not the one intended. Rather than an inspiration show of what he could bring to the student body, it was a recording of him buying off one of his opponents just days before. As hushed whispers of confusion spread through the auditorium, the next clip played. If you know what's good for you, you'll withdraw your candidacy right now, or the only thing you'll be president of is a hospital bed. Next was an equally unexpected scene of Ronald intimidating another candidate into withdrawing from the race. I made sure to prepare with the largest water bottle I have in my house for today, so we're all good from a water perspective. And it is coming very handy. I think it's like 24 ounces, which is not like a half gallon or anything like that, but it is considerably large. There we go. You know what? Let's hydrate again. That's a very good idea. Group water break, everybody. Get some water, get some hydration, stretch it out. We've been here for quite a bit. I'm having a great time reading this. I like this bridge event a lot. I do think they could have maybe done with actual cutscenes instead of just the images. Although the images are very pretty, don't get me wrong. I think they could have done with a couple of actual cutscenes, and also maybe some newer music. But it's this sort of stuff that was really cool about Sky the Third as well, with its world building and bridging into the next arc and stuff like that. And it's less fantasy magic-y Cold Steel 4. It's more like actual Zemuria. So I dig it. I dig it a lot. As it continued, Ronald realized what was going on. Someone out there had replaced his carefully prepared video with another. The initially hesitant whispers exploded into loud enough murmurs that he had to raise his voice over them in an attempt to quell the situation. This is all forgery! Someone is attempting to frame me! But just at that moment, as if waiting for his cries of denial, a girl's voice resounded from the auditorium's entrance. I'm afraid it's all entirely genuine. Her voice rang out with a wonderful clarity, charming all who heard it. She ran her hand through her violet hair and flipped it back as she talked and walked slowly toward the stage. Oh my god, you go, Ren! Bribing potential threats, blackmailing, threatening, even executing violence against others, and many other cases of bullying besides. You are guilty on every single account, Ronald Griffith. Before anyone could fully understand what was happening, the student was on the stage and staring Ronald down. All eyes were fixed upon this elegant figure. Indeed, without any effort at all, she had the air of a protagonist from some epic tale making her long-awaited appearance. Note to people taking on Ren, don't give her a break with nothing better to do than take you down. True. Very true. Damn it, Ren Bright, must you insist on getting in my way at every turn? He growled through a sheet of sheer anger. In contrast, the recently absent Ren responded with brilliant composure. You are the one getting in the way of the fair running of this important election. Your countless crimes have made a mockery of the whole process. Ren then turned from Ronald to the rest of the student body as she continued to list his crimes alongside the still running video. Some elicited frowns, others sympathy, others complete silence, but by the time she was finished, all were united in a single overpowering emotion. Anger. It brings me no joy to say this about a fellow student, but I'm afraid it must be said. Ronald Griffith, you do not deserve to even attend this prestigious academy, much less be the president of its student council. Similar censure from other students followed in rapid succession. Yeah, she's right! Stop ruining our academy! You've gone too far! Ren's accusation wasn't the only reason for their anger. The students of Aramis had long loathed Ronald's oppressive behavior. They only hadn't spoken out before because they were afraid of his father's power. Now that they realized he could be stopped, their anger had reached an explosive boiling point. Ronald suddenly found himself at the center of his torrent of abuse. He looked to his lackeys for support, but even they refused to meet his gaze. It then dawned on him just how fragile all he thought he built was. Rage gave way to an instant, deep despair, and casting a glare of pure hatred toward Ren, Ronald hurriedly sprinted out of the auditorium. Only when he was completely out of sight did the air erupt with cheers of joy. In the end, addressing the aftermath of the election took long enough that by the time she left for the gates, it was already evening. Yet, even with how late it was, instead of walking her usual route home, she stepped off the path to enter an entirely unoccupied park. How does this work? No one is going to interrupt us here, so how about you come on out? In response to her words, Ronald emerged before her for the first time since he ran away earlier in the day, and with 10 or so companions in tow. These men weren't his usual lackeys, but instead vicious figures with dark expressions and gaudy clothing. They were clearly not students of the academy. More than likely, they belonged to some local gang. You don't keep very good company outside the school now, do you? With how they're dressed up, I assume you must be off to a party or something. I am going to wipe that smug smirk right off that face for good, Ren Bright. My dazzling future in politics was guaranteed, but now you've gone and ruined everything! What am I supposed to say to my father now? That's your problem, not mine. Or are you so small a man that you can't own up to the consequences of your own mistakes? Not a second passed between his outburst and the manner in which he snapped back, causing his temper to grow twice as vile. That's it! I don't care what it takes. You are going to pay for thinking you could cross me and get away with it. Have at her. There won't be any consequences for going too far. My father will see to that. The men sprung into motion upon Ronald's signal, but what followed made them doubt their eyes. Oh, you done screwed up. You done screwed up. Look at her go. Ronald could not understand what had just unfolded before him. His eyes relayed the information well enough, but his mind rejected it completely. The second after he ordered his new lackeys to attack, Ren had produced a monstrosity sized black and gold scythe from thin air. This in itself was beyond comprehension, but it wasn't the last thing to be so. The scene was like a cat toying with a powerless, cornered mouse, except in this shocking case, Ren was the cat, and his men were the mice. They surrounded her at first, and yet all it took was a single swing of her conjured weapon to cause most of them to collapse to the ground. In less than 10 seconds, their confidence had crumbled with their bodies. The mice made to scurry as fast as they could, but the cat gleefully gave chase. There were even moments where she let a few think they had gone away, only for her to immediately close the gap between them. It was only after she was bored that she would knock them unconscious like the rest. Then she would seek delight in the next hunt. Like heavy sacks of potatoes, the men fell one by one, one by one, until only Ren and Ronald were left. My gosh, she's going for it. This can't be happening. The young man was still struggling to come to terms with what he had just witnessed as Ren stretched her limbs like a bored child still gearing up to play. Amateurs, every last one of them. I thought I could at least have a little fun. Oh, but don't you worry, I didn't actually slaughter them. She turned her gaze from the spectacle of her own creation to Ronald. Would you be open to giving me a little more entertainment, perhaps, Ronald? Ronald twitched in fear at the mention of his name. In this moment, she was now nothing more than a beast in human skin. Just stay away from me! My father's in Parliament, you know? Try anything on me and you'll regret it! Her response was an expression of pure pity before tossing what appeared to be a magazine at his feet. It's one of today's tabloids. You might find its contents relevant. What? At first he was baffled by this shift, but the second he peeked at the cover, his face went pale. Representative Griffith suspected of bribery and connections to organized crime, read the headline in giant punchy lettering. There's a whole special feature on your dearest daddy, complete with evidence. It mentions that the CID is going to be conducting an investigation as well, so this may be the last day you can say he's in Parliament. My condolences. No! No! So visceral was his shock at the news that the simple word was all he could muster. Even then, Ren wasn't finished. Oh, yeah! That'll strike fear in anybody. So now that he's been removed from the equation, I'll ask again. Would you be open to giving me a little more entertainment? She edged closer and closer, scythe in hand and a sadistic smile lacing her lips. Ronald tried to retreat in fear before tripping over a rock and falling hopelessly on his backside. All he could do was watch her as though she were the Grim Reaper, tears and snot streaming down his face. Be a doll and play with me. Then you'll understand why they used to call me the Angel of Slaughter. She raised her scythe above her head and ready to swing it downward before realizing what she said. Oops, a grown woman wouldn't play with dolls though, would she? And here I thought I could better control my childish glee. She covered her mouth with her free hand, blushing with feminine modesty at her slip-up. None of this was behavior befitting the proper lady she wanted to reflect. After composing herself, she turned her attention back to her prey, only to see that he was already unconscious. Finished? As she left the park, a calm young man called out to her, "Oh, I certainly am." Ren met eyes with a brown-skinned young man leaning covertly against one of the trees. It was safe to assume he had witnessed the entire affair unfold. Oh, hello. I don't think we've met. He glanced inside the park for a brief moment before speaking with slight but genuine admiration. You really are something. In what way? In every way. Even if I was more struck by the hacking abilities of the famous Kitty than the combat prowess of the infamous Angel of Slaughter. Still hard to believe he managed to find dirt on his bigwig dad that easily. Ren's response was matter of fact, showing no sign his praise had gone to her head. Most people just aren't as cautious about cybersecurity as they ought to be. Understandable with how new most are to it. Of course, it isn't nearly as easy as this was when you're dealing with leading corporations and politicians at the top of the food chain. You made it sound like you've tried before. Oh. Maybe I have. Ren's smile was both cryptic and darling. I'd say this is a good localization of Ren. In the JP text, she goes back to how she used to refer to herself. Now she uses proper self-pronouns, but she used to refer to herself in third person. In this scene, she reverted back to her younger self and referred to herself in third person again. Ooh, that is pretty interesting. The Patriots just lost while allowing only 6 points. This team is a disaster on offense. Bro, no. Wait, who are you playing today? The Lions beat the Saints. Kansas City's playing Green Bay later. Wait, where's the Patriots? Oh, the Chargers. Oh, no. Oh, dude, it's not looking, it is not great. Oh, no. That's going to be a game to hear about from urinating trees this week in sports ball. He's going to roast the heck out of the Patriots again. That is very unfortunate, Rio. Oh no. I've been more impressed with you. You were quick to write a piece that scathing while also finding me exactly the proof I needed. I'm glad Grace introduced us. Just doing my job. The man's name was Dingo, and he was a professional reporter for a tabloid. He was extremely capable at his job, very well connected, and held a reputation for never shying away from danger. After being introduced to one another by Grace Lynn, he and Ren made a deal with one another just a few days prior. The terms were simple. Dingo would provide Ren with proof of Ronald's misdemeanors, and Ren would use her hacking abilities to provide evidence of his father's crimes. Both were now reaping the rewards of the other's success. Though I'll admit, I did get some help from a friend. He was none too pleased about being asked to look into a scummy politician's equally scummy son, but he pulled through. Oh, you have just all kinds of connections, don't you? She did sense someone other than Dingo was acting on her behalf while she was off school, but she wasn't sure who that someone was. This curious sensation regarding their identity remained as she continued the conversation. You know, I'm surprised you didn't meet with any resistance in running that story. That just goes to show how big a fan the government was of Griffith. They left him alone because they didn't actively oppose the current president's party, but from the CID's perspective, this chance to take him down was about as good as it was going to get. That does sound like something Miss Taito Master over there would do. I can't say I like the feeling of being used by her, but oh well. Dingo then made a curious observation. I have to wonder why he went to such lengths to get rid of a small fry like him. He really bother you that much? Ren glanced briefly at Ronald, still collapsed on the ground of the park, before shrugging her shoulders dismissively. Not in the least. I didn't intend for this to go as far as it did either. I only wanted to teach him enough of a lesson so he'd leave me alone, but... It was then that the younger student who tried to save her came to mind. I think the students deserve a much better student council president than him. She then let out a titter that was most refined. As Ren expected, the allegations led Ronald's father to resign from Parliament, while he resigned from Aramis Academy. A titter. That might not be the actual word they maybe wanted, but, you know... It's a... the Pats are awful on offense. Oh, no. It's a real word, but, yeah, you know how it be. The group of students who exerted power over the student body with his backing vanished overnight as a result, bidding peace to return to the grounds for the first time in too long. One thing, however, came about from this that Ren had not expected in the least. Here are all the months relating to next month's budget. The Student Council's new president accepted the documents from the blonde-haired first year in charge of general affairs, perusing them straight away. Oh god, hold on. I gotta hydrate again. Alrighty, let's do it. After Ronald dashed from the auditorium on the day of the election, most of those in his group who put down their name dropped out in a timely fashion. Voting still took place even then, but once all was said and done, nearly 70% of the votes cast were disqualified. This was because they were all in favor of someone who had never put her name on the ballot, Ren Bright. Aramis Academy was known for how little its staff intervened with the many liberties it gave its students, but this time the staff was clearly concerned that the dissatisfaction with Ronald was going to present dire problems in the future. The teachers then chose to directly negotiate with Ren, and in the face of such fervent demand, she reluctantly accepted the position of student council president. All for Ren. Oh no. None of her duties posed a challenge to her, but by accepting it, she had completely and utterly failed her initial goal of avoiding attention. I wonder if this is how the Thor's branch campus first student council president felt when he was elected. Even I couldn't believe it when Tita told me. Alright, it is what it is, I suppose. I'll just have to make use of this as best as I can. Adorable. Sunlight bathed and beamed into the student council room. The blonde-haired girl and the two of her friends struggled with the new workload they were adjusting to. Toa, Elise, Ren, and Lecter, the student council presidents. Now, which one doesn't belong? I wonder. Naturally, it's Elise. Duh. You forgot Ash. Oh, yeah. Ash is the new one, too. We just learned about him yesterday. As Ren sat there, ears open to random talk and the occasional grumble, a thought crossed her mind. She had no end of real-world worries. The problems arising from rapid technological development, the society's next move, the ominous winds of change blustering over Calvard. But despite all those, she wanted to enjoy her simple time here while she could. Yeah, she was referencing Ash. Jill bros. Jill who? What say we get this work done so we can celebrate with a tea party, The arrival of spring was now a distant memory, even if the summer had yet to come. There was nothing particularly spectacular about this time. It was just another ordinary, beautifully bright afternoon. An unconventional student to that end. Wow, we are really making good time. Forward, sword in hand. I will take a quick 30-second BRB to use the bathroom, and then we will be back to read the final one. I was expecting this to take you a lot longer. No worries. I came in prepared, thinking that it would take me a while, but hey, if it works out that way, it works out that way. No harm, no foul, as they say. No harm, no foul. But yeah, let's take a quick 30, about a minute BRB, and then then I'll return to read the final one, and then we'll figure out what to do. I don't know, maybe I'll just talk for a little bit, like just chat for a bit, about future stuff, but we'll see. Anyway, BRB. Huzzah. How is everyone doing today, by the way? I don't know if I asked this already. Y'all had a good weekend? Y'all ready for the week? Everything going well out there in everyone's world? I'm not gonna lie, I thought we still have more time in the year, but we're already pretty much in the second week of December. I'm like, dang. It is crazy, I tell you. Did not expect. Did not expect it. Alrighty. I'm doing well, at least for everything not related to a certain football team. Yeah, second week of December. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. It is the second week, isn't it? Or am I wrong? All right, well, technically first week, right? Technically first week, because December 1st was last Friday. Yeah, it was third. Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Alrighty. Let's get back to it, shall we? Let's get this one read and done, and then we can talk about stuff. Do I still have? Hold on. Yeah, I do. Oh, wow, that's funny. I have the thing ready. That is so funny. All right, I might put something up there, but we'll see. Alrighty, whatever. No, not that one. There we go. I don't even know my own scenes anymore. Alrighty. I do still have the just chatting from the 6th anniversary. 2024 is gonna roll around. I gotta start playing the 7th anniversary. I feel like you finish one event and then you gotta start planning for it again. It's like, man. Alright, the final thing. Forward, sword in hand. Let's get her done. September, year 1207 of the Septian calendar. I cannot accept. I was not one to mince words. The hulking bear of a veteran bracer, Zin Vathek could not hide his disappointment, puffing out his bottom lip with a sigh as he stood before me. Not again. You gotta resign yourself to the inevitable one of these days. I have been indebted to this man, who was as capable as he was kind since my first days in the guild. Truly, I didn't wish to become a source of vexation for him, but the wish alone was not enough. I have neither the experience nor skill to be worthy of A rank, so I cannot accept your recommendation. Races are assigned ranks based on their strength and achievements, with A rank being the highest, on paper at least. Its members are the very face of its beloved organization, and as such, ranks are a metaphorical badge of honor to be worn with pride. So, how had I received multiple recommendations for the most prestigious rank in 6 months? I spared no effort in working to hone my craft in the years I joined after school, and certainly I would not classify myself as a doe-eyed newcomer. But to have my name amongst the greats of the guild? Absolutely not. I'm also going to say this. This character might be the character I am most excited for in Daybreak. Along with the protagonist, of course, naturally the protagonist. The guy himself. But I think I'm the most excited for this character. Because they just seem so cool. But after turning down my first recommendation, a second one had come in from the guild headquarters in Lemon. If you ask me, you got both in spades. There's something else making you lead toward a no. Zin's awkward smile told me he had been pressured by headquarters to persuade me. I folded my arms. Setting aside whether you're overestimating me or not, which I believe you are, there is. I would very much not like to stand out any more than I already do. Trails will finally have its Truck-kun with Daybreak Pro tags. I cannot wait for the joke. That's gonna be so good. Daybreak itself is going to be such a positive push for the series in the Western Front. And I really, 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 really hope that can convince Falcom to put pressure on Nisa to get their crap together and go faster. I genuinely think it will be. But they just need... It's funny because... I'm just gonna say this real quick. It's funny because in Trails, they're talking about Calvard going faster and faster and faster, and people need to make sure they keep up and stuff like that. And at the same time, so much in Trails is they talk about like, oh man, life's changing. We gotta adapt with the times and stuff like that. And the nobility doesn't really work anymore. The technology's faster. We gotta care about what's coming next and make sure we're, staying ahead of our competitors. You're literally writing your own advice into your games. No, take it! Take the advice of which you give! Maybe it does well enough for Falcom to make Falcom West. That honestly might not be the worst idea for them. That genuinely may not be the worst idea for them. I've been getting offers to be a model, to star in films. It's been, frankly, exhausting forcing them to give up. Now, what do you think would happen if I were to accept a promotion? I'll be neck deep in the same mess all over again. Okay, that makes sense. But sorry, you're a 1-2 punch in the beauty and bronze department. Trying to lay low is a lost cause. With the kind of fans you're getting, maybe you should consider the silver screen after all. Who knows? You might walk away with an award from the film festival. Zin's laugh was hearty in contrast to my unamused frown. Much as I respected him, he could do with showing a little more decorum. That's not funny. I understand being in the public eye to some extent is inevitable, and I've accepted it, but I'm a bracer, not an entertainer. I wasn't trying to be funny though. You gotta find a way to let off some steam, or you're gonna break when we need you put together the most. Happens to workaholics like you more often than you think. I didn't think I was pushing myself as much as he implied, but I also couldn't deny there was a nugget of truth to what he said. We were getting off topic. Wait, 1 second. Sneeze? No sneeze? Maybe? No, it was a bait. Just why is headquarters so desperate for me to become an A-rank bracer? I can't see the logic behind it. Well, you see, starting with what you know, the reparations from Erebonia have beefed up our economy this past year, so all kinds of new investments are pouring in from across the continent. Now, I'm no economist, but people go where the money's at. And where people go, conflict follows. That's just how it is. I saw where he was going from there, electing to expand on the rest myself. So now we have disputes between mega corporations and a stark increase in Jaeger activity. These are in addition to the known growth of private military companies and increased tensions between mafias. You got it! You think it's bad now, it's only going to get worse from here. That's why Lemon wants to up security while we're promoting our rising star. You. They see it as good PR for the guild and a deterrent to any potential threats that are thinking about stepping out of line. Perhaps I was more vaguely aware of their goal in using me than I wanted to admit. This didn't make me hearing the answer any more satisfying. If they have you asking me to play my part, then surely they've asked you to play your part already. You've been recommended for S rank, haven't you? If you know of a better deterrent than having an S rank in Calvar, then I'd like to hear it. Zin what? Scritched? Zin scratched the back of his head awkwardly upon my statement. Is scritched a word? Can you scritch something? You can scratch something, but what's a scritch? It's a real word? Ain't no shot. No way. I'm looking this up. S-C-R-I-T-C-H-E-D. Scritched meaning. To make a light scratching sound like a small animal brain. What? That makes no sense. Zin's like a bee. He's a gorilla. What? How can he scritch? His hands are like 2 times the size of this character's. What? Usually used for pets. Yeah, because it makes sense for them. Not for the behemoth that Zin is. I just don't think I'm up there with someone like Cassius Bright. S is even an official rank, and even if it was, just look at me. You think a guy like me is a picture-perfect advertisement for the guild? I think you have the skills, achievements, and build to be one, yes. A curt, quick response. Alright, point made. I can't force you to take the recommendation, and I'm not about to be a hypocrite. Just, let me know if you change your mind, okay? With that, the conversation came to an end, and the guild's bracers gathered to begin our routine meeting of delegating open requests. This is how I preferred things. It was better to stay like this. Already super cool. There was a point when I wanted to be something more. I can no longer remember when that was. Sometime during my childhood it happened, I'm sure. I just recall realizing how small the world truly was. So I prayed and longed to become someone I was not. It was around high school when I thought I became that someone. Those years were unforgettable. I'll never forget the unexpected reunion that was had there, nor the priceless treasure I'd gained. I truly thought I'd gotten closer to who I wanted to be. But in the end, it was just wishful thinking. My hand, once held, was now empty. And I was still a nobody. But I refused to stand still. I grew unrelenting in following the new path I chose for myself, ignoring my family's objections. My motivations had changed, however. I no longer possessed that girlhood desire of becoming something more. Of becoming someone. I just needed to keep moving forward, keep moving, however aimless that movement was. Well, aren't we looking? Speaking of scritches, the cat is here looking for some. Aw, cute. Well, aren't we looking gorgeous today? With a whimsical wink, a familiar bartender welcomed me to his establishment. He was a tall, affable man who lived by his own rules and never hesitated to lend a helping hand to others. He reminded me much of the Crossbell City branch's receptionist from the few times I visited for work. The place was nearly empty today. I sat down on the counter seat farthest from the door as he approached. The usual, sweetheart. I stopped by here after a hard day's work on occasion. Whenever I did, I always ordered coffee and a light snack. This was not a coffee and snacks kind of day. I want something with alcohol. Even beer will do. Not at all fazed by the vagueness of my order, he walked away and started preparing my drink. It wasn't long before he returned and placed an elegant glass in front of me. I think this is a little more you than a beer. It was a beautiful cocktail composed of two colors, a clear blue like that of a priceless sapphire and a calming jade. No doubt he could tell how disquieted my heart was and was trying to soothe it in his own way. I thanked him inwardly before daring to broach my other reason for coming. Have you learned anything more about what I asked? Apart from being a skilled bartender, he was also a well-known informant. He was extremely well connected to the guild, the press, and even the criminal underworld, but he was very careful never to overstep his bounds with that last one. Indeed, I found him to be a valuable source when needed. I wish I could say yes, but not even Dingo has any promising leads. Still, I think you've got your eyes on the right district. It's only a matter of time before they get smoked out. I see. Since the guild's investigation turned up nothing, I was hoping he would better point me in the right direction, but it seemed this was going to be a lot harder than I hoped for. Things will work out. Just pace yourself and keep at it a little bit at a time. That also applies to that cocktail. It's a strong one, so don't drink it all at once. I tilted the glass delicately between my fingers as he stepped away, my mind continuing to wade through the case I was following. There had been a stark increase in illegal drugs on the market. Not just any drugs either, but ones of the highly addictive, dangerous variety. Payue, who effectively ruled over the criminal underworld in Calvard, ordinarily limited their proliferation in the market as part of their rules. Limiting the number of drugs was, of course, far from the ideal elimination of them, but none could deny that the syndicate's actions had brought some semblance of order to where chaos often reigned supreme. Yet the past few years had seen a worrying number of criminal groups rebelling against these carefully curated rules. One of these groups was surely behind the change in the market. All of this held a presumed connection to two missing people. The guild and police had been tasked with searching for two children below the age of 10, a boy and his younger sister. They simply left the house one day and had not been seen since. Whoa. Evidence suggested they came from a perfectly ordinary family on good terms with one another, so the likelihood of them running away was slim. We mulled over the suspicion that they had been abducted for ransom early on, but not a single demand was made following their disappearance, so it was quickly ruled out. Despite a healthy amount of manpower that was coming from both sides, neither the guild nor the police had yet to find them. That said, the search so far had not proved entirely fruitless. Their last known location was fortunately established, and it was, unfortunately, a popular site for illicit drug trade. The working theory from there became that the siblings witnessed a transaction and were held captive by the criminal parties involved as a result. If that held true, then the longer it took our parties to find them, the greater the danger their lives were in. The abductors wouldn't do anything right away. Murder was sure to leave trace evidence behind, but it was only a matter of time before they resorted to that or trafficking abroad to be rid of them. With each passing second, the odds of the children being returned unharmed were dropping to zero. At the same time, all this was pure speculation on our part, based on a single established location. For all we know, this had nothing to do with the criminal underworld at all. The potential dangers thrown around made inaction an agonizing task, but there was no evidence to go on. Action was impossible. We could forcibly arrest any suspicious people on site and make them talk should we wish it, but that would be a direct violation of the Guild's code and its founding principle. The Bracer Guild always sought to be an ally of the people first and foremost, so resorting to criminal acts to obtain evidence was out of the question. If only this strict adherence to our code didn't stop us from being able to resolve so many crimes, thereby putting the people we swore to protect in danger. It was the ultimate impasse. As I found myself pondering on this impossible dilemma the Bracers had placed themselves in, a familiar face came to mind. He was a childhood friend with blue-tinged unkept hair. Though we had lost contact with one another some years before, he one day returned to the city as suddenly as he had left it. Soon after starting up a peculiar profession that skirted the line of legality to a dangerous degree. The kind of profession that could easily involve himself in the affairs of many an unscrupulous individual, or so I believed. Just what did that idiot think he was doing? He walked out of my life without warning and walked back in much the same. I spent so much time searching for him. I knew our reunion would be an awkward one based on how we parted, but for him to return after all that waiting, all that searching, and dive into some questionable enterprise so different from my own was almost too much to bear. It gave rise to many concerns as a bracer, and many more concerns as a friend. And the one that bothered me most was, why hadn't he come to see me? Did he have any idea how worried I was about him? How worried I am about him? Irritation building, I took a large gulp of my cocktail, but the alcohol only fanned the flames of anger burning in my heart. They burned brighter and brighter still, becoming a dazzling white that projected countless transient images of the past. Then, just as quickly as it had flared, my anger faded in an instant, replacing itself with a very different emotion altogether. Why did you leave me? The words slipped from my mouth without me realizing it, making me feel downright pitiful once they were said. If someone were to see me in this state. You still haven't moved on, I see. A familiar but unexpected voice called out to me, causing me to jump slightly from surprise. I quickly regained my composure. I just have a few choice words I'd like to say. My response feigned calmness as best as I could. I couldn't help but think I had more than a few choice words, really, but following up with that would aid my annoyance in a way I would rather not further. Oh, I imagine you have more than a few. Right, of course he wouldn't see right through me. The bespectacled man then sat down next to me as though our running into each other was no coincidence. He was another childhood friend of both myself and the one I was lamenting over, and someone who followed a remarkably different career path from either one of us. If it's still bothering you that much, why not just go and see him? You already have his address by now, surely. How could I with how much time that's passed? As I mumbled my response meekly, I thought I could hear the man next to me chuckle. Well, then I suppose there's no need to rush things. With your lines of work, I'm sure your paths will cross naturally enough in due time. I didn't expect that kind of response. You make it sound so romantic. Lest you have forgotten, I don't struggle with expressing what's in my heart the way he does. Now, since we're here, how about a toast? I'll, make your next one non-alcoholic. And lest you have forgotten, I can handle my liquor just fine, thank you very much. We then spent the rest of our time reminiscing about the past. It had been too long since we were able to just sit and talk like this. And it wasn't that he and I had become estranged, but both of our jobs made it a trying task to meet even at the best of times. By the way, I heard word you turned down becoming an A-rate bracer again? Of course that wouldn't escape the CID's ears. The information itself wasn't confidential, but that he already knew something, however unofficial it was entirely typical of him. The Bracer Guild focused on protecting civilians, while the CID focused solely on the needs of the president in office. The groups were neither enemies nor allies. They simply had very different goals where work was concerned. I know it isn't my place to tell you to accept the offer. However, he paused before resuming, his tone becoming markedly more serious. The times we live in demand a new hero. That much is clear. I had no idea what a realist like him was trying to say by implying I was a hero. But before I could inquire further, he changed to the subject that was likely what brought him to find me in the first place. Now, if you don't mind, I have something that will be of interest to you regarding those missing children. My eyes widened from the unexpected change. He continued. We've identified the group that made the district their turf, as well as have compelling evidence of a crime taking place. You may proceed as you like in cooperation with the police. I couldn't believe it. On a fine silver platter, he had given me just cause to act. And since there was no reason to doubt its veracity, I felt it. I was on the verge of rekindling my girlhood desires. All I had done till now was follow life where it was taking me. And yet here I found myself before a new path that could lead to someone I once wanted to be. This deviation terrified me. What if it led me to losing someone again? What if it ended in more pain? My fear begged me to stay idle. I was a fragile human being at my core. I knew it well. It made me wish I was anything but. It inspired me to take up a sword and rebel against any whisperers of weakness, and I played the part admirably on the surface. But if I were forced to face cruel reality in the future, I wondered, would my heart be able to take it? As I sidestepped to the left, I shifted my center of gravity and unleashed a furious slashes against my first foe, using that momentum to thrust both myself and my blade toward my second. 2 low-ranking mobsters fell to the ground. They were members of a mafia I had been chasing, and right now I was in the thick of their den of operations. My friend gave the guild and police the excuse we needed to take a more direct stance against our targets. His information was vague, however, so we still had to discern their precise location on our own. I, Zin, and several other bracers agreed it would be best to split our forces and attack several locations in unison for this part of our mission. Based on what just transpired, it appeared my location was the lucky winner. There's the intruder! Hey, I've seen her before. She's from the paper. 2 more reinforcements arrive, but I was hardly going to give them time to act. I raced forward, swinging my sword twice as I passed them, and they fell before they could even raise their weapon. I advanced. Mobsters appeared in droves. Presumably word of my arrival had already spread. The Wahoo. There she is! She's that bracer word's been going around about. Well, damn it. What if the immovable's here too? Don't be chicken shit. It's one woman. We can take care of her. I forgot that's the Wahoo sound. I thought it'd be the Mario Wahoo. The bait is real. They then charged me in a mass, at least 10 of them, with more reinforcements on their way from farther inside the building. Forcing my way through with how many they had in their number was risky. I knew the sensible thing to do would be to wait for the other bracers to show, but I also had to consider, what if my waiting afforded the Mafia the time to wield the children as hostages? Weighing the 2 options, I concluded that whatever... Yeah, hello! Yeah, now we're talking. Yeah, hello! That's the best greeting we got. Next to Squaddle. I concluded that whatever reduced the chances of that happening was worth the cost. I needed to push on and settle this, now. Besides, I believe I had nothing to fear from this pitiful group as they were. Were they seasoned combat veterans? Were they seasoned combat veterans, they could have used their numerical advantage to implement complex formations and corner me, but they did no such thing, the amateurs. And they dared to believe they held a candle to Heiue's martial arts? In the face of one of my experience, their bloated size was more of a hindrance than a help. They wouldn't be able to utilize even half their potential against me. I first had to position myself and them appropriately. I can ensure the gun-toting wielders among them were in each other's line of fire while rounding up the close-range fires to a single spot. They would soon have bigger worries. Friendly fire. Their vulnerabilities would then spell my victory as I cut them down. 1 down. 2 down. The precious seconds after defeating a foe were the most advantageous. Just as a man had fallen, I was on to another before they had time to adjust to my incoming blade. There was no pattern to who was next by design. I chose my targets with stunning erraticism, throwing them into complete disarray as more collapsed to the ground. 3 down. 4. I would go around them in a wide circle. I would move between them, while remaining ever aware of any surprise assaults at my back. I waited through them until I encountered the ones farthest back. These ones never even considered I would be able to reach them. They were spread so carelessly. The men took up their guns with newly alert panic strewn across their faces, but their fate was already sealed. They were powerless as I closed the gap between us. 5, 6, 7. With over half their number down, the remaining mobsters were quickly losing their will to counter. Some attacked out of adrenaline-induced desperation, calculating their next move so poorly that they fell into my long-set trap and accidentally attacked themselves. At this point, the battle was as good as final. All I had to do was continue taking them down till I was the last one standing. There were smaller groups I encountered on my way through the building, but I was able to disable them with little effort. The path they opened for me eventually led me to their leader. He was a middle-aged fellow, pacing restlessly around an unpleasantly gaudy room until I entered. He twitched in fear upon the very sight of me. "Why are you here? Where are my men?" "Kissing the floors." I answered so calmly and concisely that he balked in disbelief. "That's impossible. I sweat my balls off to build this group from the ground up, and you're just saying a girl like you tore it all down like that?" I ignored his crude language, and drew closer. As I thrust my sword till it sat just between his eyes, he let out a squeal. "Well, I'm no ordinary girl. I'm a bracer. And don't worry, I didn't kill them. They only have been knocked out or restrained. You'll be seeing them again soon, in prison." I shot a darkened glare in his direction as the tip of my sword wandered downward to his neck. "Now, I have some questions for you, and you will answer them." The man nodded emphatically, his whole body trembling with fear. "2 children, a boy and a girl under 10 years old, disappeared last month. Your people abducted them, didn't they?" He nodded. "I knew it. Then where are they? What did you do to them?" They're in a room farther inside. They're alive." At last, I could breathe a sigh of relief. My most fundamental objective when coming here could be fulfilled. Next, I need to ask him more about his group. "I thought you all seemed far too weak to be charged of this district of the city, but after coming across your account book, everything fell into place. You're working on behalf of someone else, aren't you?" He was so unsure of how to respond that he fell completely silent, but that alone gave me my answer. "Who is it then? Tell me. Is it A?" I can't." He flinched in fear as I pressed him, resisting as though he genuinely couldn't say. And just as he opened his trembling lips to speak, I heard a strange thudding sound from outside the room. I stepped away from the man, my sword still firmly in hand. Punching, squelching, splattering. More sounds, these more audible than the first. I didn't know what to make of them, but they made me feel an instinctive revulsion as they dragged on. They may have come accompanied by faint groans, but if they did, they faded just as soon as the sounds themselves. I remained on guard as I stepped into the hallway, ready to be attacked from any angle at any moment. And the sight that greeted me defied all imagination. The mobsters I fought through mere minutes before were now nothing more than distorted, mutilated piles of flesh and bone. Not just 1 or 2. Every single one of them, without exception, had been reduced to bloodied mounds. Some were without heads, others had their organs ripped from their abdomens. Then there were those with their skulls caved in and leaking pulverized brain matter, or the ones with their hearts pulled out and squeezed. Each corpse was different. Each corpse was unbearable to look at. The plain hallway I traversed with all due speed was now covered in a sticky, slimy red. Who could have done something like this? The sight was so awful that my free hand, now clenched, shook from disgust. When was it necessary to go this far? What could anyone have to gain from this? Wait, no! I realized I had just made a very careless mistake. I turned and hurried back into the room I was just in. It was too late. The Mafia's leader was floating in the air at the center of the room, as though some unknown force was holding him up by his chest. Once a monstrous sword pierced through his chest, a single streak of blood dripped from his unspeaking mouth. There was no room to believe that he was anything but dead. Like all the others in the hallway, he didn't even have time to scream before his life was taken. Who are you? Who are you? I barked at the center of the room, trying to drown out my instinctive fear with anger. At a glance, only the corpse and I were present, but if I strained my eyes, I could also see the faint contours of another distorting the space around them. It must have been some form of active camouflage. I would have thought it basic courtesy to give your name before asking another's, charming ace of the Bracer Guild. It was a man's voice that projected true arrogance, as though he were above all others as a matter of course. I instinctively readied myself for the battle in response, but my actions seemed not to faze him in the slightest. No need to be spoiling for a fight. I'm simply here to take out the trash after they were careless enough to leave a trail for the CID to follow. Was I really talking to a fellow human being? How could he speak of such gruesome murders in those terms? Are you a business partner of theirs? No, you must be from the group above them. Very good. He then swung his blade to the slide and tossed the corpse off to the side with all the respect of a used cigarette. How could you treat people you worked with like this? People? Have you your ears? I said nothing about taking out a person. Only trash. The same applies to the garbage piling up in the hallway. They have always been so, even before they stopped breathing. It was clear that communicating with someone of his nature was impossible. I dismissed calm reason for an intense, all-consuming anger so great that my entire body couldn't stop trembling. You monster! Before I knew it, I had sprung into action, putting every drop of my strength into my blade to launch a swift, unavoidable strike. But he repelled it with one vertical swing of his own. The one exchange was enough to tell me that his strength was well a league above mine. He parried my blow at the most perfect instant, canceling out the force of my attack with so little effort that it barely scratched the surface of what he was capable of. The act of camouflage did nothing to hide the monstrous nature of his cruciform sword either. Its design combined silver and black into an unholy fusion of darkness and light, as if chaos itself dwelled within its very blade. It was no common weapon. Even if I continued to give it my all, my odds of winning against him were extremely slim. But at the same time, my instincts were screaming at me that I could not allow him to leave. I charged again. If attacking him from the front wasn't going to work, they would have to go for his side. He blocked that attack with just as little effort. But I wasn't done yet. I refused to stop moving, slashing a third time with even more speed than the first two. Oh my. I showered him in a flurry of them, each one faster than the last. When I finally reached my physical limit, I darted in a new direction, attacking him from behind. I put my very soul into one overwhelming attack aimed directly at his rear, which I could only just make out through the camouflage's distortion. I got him! However, the second I became sure that victory was within my grasp, his cruciform blade carved a great arc through the air in a ferocious spinning slash. I was able to instantly defend myself against the blow, but the force of it sent me flying backward. I was fortunate enough to not have sustained a direct hit, but my body shook from not being able to fully cancel out its massive weight. Still, I forced myself back to my feet and glared at his form. The difference between us was night and day. It felt as though he couldn't manipulate the very flow of battle, much like a master of martial arts who understood the true meaning of true nature of all things. He paid no mind to my pitiful attempt at bravado and gave a short laugh before speaking. Impressive. You put up more of a fight than the rumors had led me to believe. What's your goal? What are you trying to do with all your strength? I expected him to reject or ignore me, so I was taken aback when he paused for a sincere moment of thought before answering. An interesting question. I suppose to instill fear. Fear? I almost doubted my ears. Fear is at the heart of all we know. Domination and servitude, order, harmony, and production. All of it exists because of fear. That is why I seek to instill fear in its purest form, much like the retributive tower that appeared in Crossbell half a year ago. Such a pity that it fell. There was such pleasure in his words that made it easy to imagine the expression on his veiled face. As insane as what he was saying sounded to me, I knew he meant every word of it. You really are a monster. Continue your fruitless attempts to stop me, and you'll understand what I mean in due time. He lowered his blade. As a parting gift for assisting me in my house-cleaning efforts, I will let you and those children go. Keep that far too pristine blade sharp for our next meeting, bracer. With that, he turned to leave. Wait! Just as I extended my hand, the ground below him emitted a bright glow, and by the time that glow had faded, he was gone. He had likely used the same teleportation spell that certain other criminal organizations were known to rely on. His departure also released all the strength I had left in me, not from relief, but from the exact opposite. I was so overwhelmed with frustration that I let him leave, so afraid of what he might go on to do because I couldn't stop him, that I lost the strength to even stand. Of course, this is just who I've always been. I haven't changed one bit since the day you left me. I'm still the same powerless girl I was back then. My work here wasn't finished yet. I walked to the next room. I opened the door and was greeted by what appeared to be an old storage space. There, across the hall, I found who I was searching for. The brother and sister pair were crouched against the wall, the boy trembling on the floor as his sister stood by. It's okay. I'm here to help you. I kept my tone as gentle and reassuring as I was able. The girl smiled while her older brother continued to hide his face. I slowly walked toward them, careful not to make any sudden movements, but as I did, the boy shook his head vigorously. His whole body trembled more the closer I got, as though he were telling me to stay away. The answer from that man flashed in my mind. Fear is at the heart of all we know. These poor children were very much in fear's clutches. No matter how gradual I was in closing the distance between myself and the boy, trying my best not to provoke him, his body language showed he continued to reject me. We were now within arm's length of one another. His shaking grew more violent, and though he opened his mouth to speak, his voice refused to come out. It's all right. I smiled the most comforting smile. For that, I reached out behind me and grasped the blade of the knife that was being thrust toward me. I turned swiftly, my fingers never letting go, and found the one gripping the hilt to be none other than his sister. She had tiptoed around my back while I was kneeling to meet her brother and tried to stab me from behind. She was a bit startled by my halting her attack, but otherwise she stared blankly forward, emotion on her face nowhere to be seen. I suppose he was right about fear. It controls everything we do. Must have been through something terrifying if it made you resort to this. No doubt they were now conditioned by fear to attack anyone who came to their rescue. I paid no mind to the blood from my bare hand slowly dripping to the floor. The cut from the knife was nothing compared to everything else in the moment. My first priority instead was to reassure the girl I meant no harm. But we humans are capable of more than giving in to that fear. We can fight it. With courage. We can fight it. Your brother was doing just that now. He may have been gripped by fear, but he still fought his hardest through his actions to alert me of the danger his sister posed. Even if it took all he had, he wanted to keep me safe and tried to keep her from committing an irreversible, regrettable act. It was thanks to him that I noticed what she was trying to do. You don't have to be afraid anymore. I'm a bracer. I'll keep you safe. I took the girl into my arms. You're a bracer? Even her voice was devoid of emotion. That's right. I'm here to help you. Oh, I think I've seen you in a magazine before. Something Blade, I think. That's right. The nickname is a little embarrassing, but I'd be happy if you remembered it. That way, as long as you hear it, you'll know I'm here to keep you out of harm's way. I tightened my grip around her as if to stop anything more from hurting her and surround her heart with my warmth. You really will be okay. I promise. I noticed her eyes twitch just slightly, and before long, her eyes filled with tears. Soon she began to sniffle, at first a small one here and there, till they gradually grew more pronounced, eventually turning into uncontrollable sobs. She had finally been liberated from her fear. As for me, I had stayed my course. I was too afraid to deviate from my current path. Still, I had chosen this path with pride in my heart. I didn't think it right to turn my back on it now, but I wasn't going to let it be an aimless journey from now on either. And so, it was another day in the Edith branch of Calvard's Guild. It sounds like that Mafia was trying to copy what other organization of assassins managed to pull off. Oh, I was discussing the recent case with Zin. The siblings had indeed been abducted because they witnessed an illegal transaction. The Mafia involved then thought to mimic a group of assassins known for raising children with the intent of turning them into professional killers. Their attempts, thankfully, proved as unsuccessful as their attempts to remain covert in selling drugs. The CID found them, and whoever they were working for purged them. Hell of a way to go. If I hadn't been so incompetent, maybe they wouldn't have been purged at all. Don't beat yourself up about it. The Guild's priority is to keep civilians safe, not criminals. I don't want to say they deserved it for getting involved in the organized crime, but it is what it is. Try putting that frustration you're feeling into more personal growth instead of letting it eat you alive. I was told that while the siblings were going to need psychological counseling for some time, they were fully expected to recover and go back to everyday lives. My meeting with them had triggered something inside of me. I came to realize that something needed to change. I had to take some kind of step forward. Even if it ended in me falling to the floor in some dramatic fashion, I just needed to pick myself back up again. With that in mind, I accepted my multiple recommendations. Yo! The times we live in demand a new hero. Doing so made me think of what my childhood friends said to me. I didn't believe I had what it took to be a hero, but if I could be even just a brief one able to give the people hope and banish the darkness ahead, then that was the reason enough to keep going. Maybe that could make me somebody enough to fight alongside the real hero once they came to light. Well, shall we get down to business? Zin turned to face me, his classic broad grin even broader than usual. It'll be a while longer before the official paperwork arrives from headquarters, but I'm sure they won't mind me speeding up this part of the process with how much they wanted this. The Republic now has a bracer who reached A rank at the same age as the Empire's Purple Lightning. Congrats on your promotion, Elaine Auclair, Beauty's Blade. Forward, sword in hand, the end. Yo, that song was so good! Although I wish the saxophone was kind of like an ocarina or a flute of some sorts, but hey, you know what? That song was still really good. Beauty's Blade, shit name. What is it? What did the fan translation put it as? Sword Maiden. Sword Maiden is a pretty good one. That is a pretty good one. Oh! Straight JP. Oh. Suspension of causality recording engine. Activity confirmed. Forced connection to Astral Link severed. Is a good name, but a bad one to convey the meaning. Yeah. They're both good. I don't mind. I like Beauty's Blade too. The whirlpool of causality engulfing Erebos and the fated land has at last been unraveled. Though the bell ringing in the end of days has yet to be silenced. You, children of Zemuria, have earned your moment of peace until the time comes to face the final hour. Until you, with hope and fear in your hearts, must walk new trails. Elaine does not like the name. She feels it demeans her work. Beauty Blade is closer to accomplishing that than Swordman. Yeah, exactly. So it kind of all works out in the end. What have I not done? Oh, that is not happening. That is not happening. That is not happening. None of these are happening. Oh, I never did the cooking. Oh, who the heck? Who is one off? Oh, who is one off? What? Even Sword of Beauty would have sounded better and conveyed the same meaning. Probably, yeah. Banana Boat. Achieve rank 0 higher for on-course C. Oh my god. Who is the one? You didn't talk to Milliam and Heimdall. Wow. Wait, I thought I did. Who the heck? Ren! What? Of all the people, Ren. When did I not talk to you? Huh? Either I didn't talk to you or I didn't do something. What? Well, that's a surprise. Did I do... Well, alrighty then. I guess that'll do. Probably. I don't really know.
Trials available.
Oh, I do not want to do this one. Okay, wait, I want to see who the fight is for this one. I don't really care for the fight, I just want to see who it is. Who do you fight of all things? Oh, yourself. You have to talk to her in crossbow at one point. That's the one you missed based on the guide. Oh.
Thank you. Guess it's me.
Get lost! Get lost!
How about...
Too slow!
I don't actually want to do this fight.
Get lost! Get lost! Too slow!
How about...
It's taking a long time to die.
Think I'll pull...
Yeah, when you're gonna talk to basically everyone in the finale. Aww. Dang. Alrighty. I don't know.
Oh, I bet there's good fishing to be had here.
Connecting to Reverie Garden database.
I think I'm good. Well, I started early. Probably fine that I started early and I'm ending now, actually. I have a couple things I need to get done. I have a couple of projects I need to continue working on. Well, it only took me like... July 8th was like my first save. It is now December. Wow, almost 6 months. Yeah, almost half a year. Dang. Beach time? Maybe. I don't know. I'm kind of tuckered. Almost 5 months, Goldie. Should I be concerned about your math? 7 plus... Oh yeah, there's 12 months in a year, not 13. Whoops. Yeah, 5 months. You're still almost half a year. I think I'll end it so as to save my voice. But before we leave, I will mention a few closing thoughts on Reverie as a whole, because I didn't really do this a whole lot then. It is going to be kind of sad, leaving this art style, gameplay style, and Cold Steel characters and stuff like that. I think Reverie is a really, really good game. I think the blue spheres were really nice, except for
Slap of Reminiscence activated.
That one. We can forget that one existed. A lot of these are really good. The characters are all so much fun. I still very much hold Cold Steel 1 and 2 as my favorite duology in the series. That might change in the future. I really do I enjoyed a lot of this, and it's been a fun journey finally being able to play Reverie, and I'm looking forward to playing Daybreak in the summer. But we still have Naida. So, okay, let's chat about what's coming up in the future. So, I'm out of town next weekend. That's kind of like when a mini break is happening. So December the 9th, the 10th, or December the 9th, all the way through the 20th, I am not here. So there'll be no streams during that time. Now, whether or not I return for the 23rd and 24th weekend, like Christmas weekend, I don't know. Still TBD on that one. I will be back for New Year's. So the December 30th and December 31st weekend, I will be back for. So we are starting Persona 5 next is the big RPG. If not sooner, on the 23rd, we will start that on the 30th of this month. At the end of the month, really. We will be officially starting Persona 5. Woo! I will try my best for Persona 5, because I know of its length, to try and make the streams a bit on the longer side, or I will start trying to do stuff off screen, specifically just stuff that doesn't really need to be on there. Like if there's mini games or side content that don't really need to be on screen, I might just leave them aside. But I will also be following a guide for that one, to the best of my ability. So we will be doing that. Naida will still be on Tuesdays until we finish it, and then I'll just put Persona 5 on Tuesday nights, just to make it go a little bit faster. But I am really enjoying Naida being on Tuesdays. Like, there's something really fun and relaxing about it to me. So yeah, there's that. I am working on trying to get a Let's Read on the YouTube side of things for the last 2 weeks of December. I will try and get that to happen. If not, maybe starting of it. But it all depends on time, because I leave on Saturday. So maybe I can get something going. But, so that's kind of the plan from here on out, really. It's just Persona 5 and Naida. And then once Persona 5 ends, ideally, it's before Daybreak, or like right when Daybreak comes out. We'll hop right into Daybreak. And what I'm going to do is, when I get to that point, I'll bring it up then too. I'll be on the 7th anniversary too. But I want to mention it now, is that when we get to Daybreak, Daybreak will only be on Saturdays and Sundays. Tuesdays will become a whatever I want to do that day. So that could be like indie other games, like platformers or things I've been wanting to play. I haven't really gotten around to yet with no obligation of finishing them. there might be opportunity for collabs to take place at nighttime, at least for people in the States. There's a couple of dev streams I want to do where like I code up some stuff that I've been wanting to do for many years, and I just need time to actually do it. Those will probably be the more likely ones to happen. But Tuesday nights will essentially just become, let's just kind of hang out and chat. This does mean that it'll take me longer to beat Trails, but hey, you know what? Whatever. Life is still offering me the opportunity to stream, and so I will take that opportunity to stream and such. So that's what's kind of coming up for 2024, really. Nothing too special. As always, the goal is still there. If I hit 300 followers, I have 2 songs that I have to record and cover, and they'll be posted to YouTube. And when we do post them to YouTube, I'll make a big thing like, oh, let's hang out, and I'll make the YouTube's videos. You know, we'll have a stream. We'll like watch and react to them together. You guys will finally be able to hear me sing officially for those 2 songs. So if you want that goal to be hit, just, you know, get people to follow, I guess. I don't know what I'm doing for 350. Maybe I'll make it 400. I don't know. What else? You're nearly caught up. What's the rush, right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I take longer, then by the time I finish Daybreak 2 might already be out or whatnot and stuff like that. But hey, whatever. In terms of this week, things are still going to be pretty much normal. Night on Tuesday, videos on the YouTube side Monday, Wednesday, and then till on Thursday. Although I might cut that one short / cut that in general, depending on my preparation for other things. And the like, who am I sending us to? Who do you guys want to go to for raids? So as usual, if you're new here and you want to follow certain things, you know what you gotta do and hit those socials. You can tell how tired I am. Oh boy, oh boy. Let's see here. Let's go over here. Let's go hang out with Owlful. She's really cool. Owlful is playing some Pikmin 4, so let's go hang out with them. Owlful gamers. Make sure that they're still going for a bit. And get past the ad. Also, as we're waiting for the thing to go off, the last thing I'll say is if you have stuck around for the Trails stuff, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all for joining me for Trails. It is a very odd series, in my opinion, to stream because of all the dialogue, and I'm happy that I can provide plentiful commentary and plentiful reading to make it enjoyable. So I thank you all for joining me for Reverie. We'll be taking a break from our, Trails drama, but, we'll be back. My favorite JRPG soap opera. So again, thank you all so much for continuously watching me in my JRPG endeavors and streams and the like. But with that, let's go hang out elsewhere. And I'll see us next time for some more fun streams Tuesday night for Naida. So the old golden experience is not too far away. Here's to Daybreak. Exactly. I am so excited for Daybreak, but that'll be a tale for another day. Alrighty. Bye-bye, y'all.